Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in to the MotorMotion E-Series Trak Racer TCR Cup Season 2. We're back for round 5 of 7 in this fantastic season. We've got, of course, our 2 lobbies today for your viewing pleasure. And we're over in France, the lovely, lovely France. St. Croix C is the track today for round 5. 10.8 kilometers of brilliant, brilliant racing. 24 turns in this track. 12 laps for the drivers and teams to navigate today. Late morning is the time out there, and it's gonna be fantastic. It is beautiful. We're having fun here in the commentary box. And of course, speaking of the commentary box, it is myself here, George Cooke, and we've got the legendary Nick Pautasso and our pit lane reporter as well in Andrew Scott. So welcome in, gentlemen. Lovely to have you here. And Nick, how are you doing tonight, mate?
Yes, good evening, everyone. And, yes, I have a beautiful, freshly baked croissant for me to be munching on upon as we get ourselves ready for Lobby 1 and for Lobby 2 as well. So we definitely got our French baker just down the road has been bringing in all the croissants for us here in the commentary box, and I'm sure our drivers will be enjoying themselves a nice hot French croissant here. But yes, a beautiful circuit, a fictional circuit that is St. Croix. I love the circuit. I love all layouts, the layout A, B, and C, but this one in particular, layout C, is one of our favorites in the series that I run, our partner series in Trak Stars Racing Series, where we run a 1,500 kilometer enduro season, where we have 5 stints to make up 1,500 kilometers around this layout. And we know with these guys running 12 laps for 2 lobbies, that's going to feel like an eternity with these Group 4 TCR cars.
That's exactly right. 3.5-ish minutes, 3 minutes 40 is about the lap time we're expecting here today. That is a long, long lap. If you thought Spa was a long lap or Le Mans was a long lap, try St. Croix C, which I'm almost tempted to call St. Croissant, but I won't for now. I'm going to respect the fictional nature of the French track here in Gran Turismo 7. Let's rapidly move on to the information about today's races that are going to happen for your viewing pleasure, of course. Qualifying for both of the lobbies has been happening and is almost already done. We've got 45-minute lap equivalent race ahead of us for St. Croix C here in France. 12 laps, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you add the fact that it's 3 minutes 40 per lap, add pit stops to that, it's a long race, and it's going to be a challenge for all the drivers out there. Of course, I've mentioned before, Crazy Good Kung Fu, George Cooke is myself here, and Nick Pautasso from Trak Stars Racing, the sister, and I think older sister, I think is the way to say it, group here for the MotorMotion E-Series. Trak Stars Racing Series touring cars, of course, happening every Sunday evening at 6 p.m. AEST or AEDT, I believe it is. So fantastic to, of course, have you in here, Nick, for all of that. But you are listening to MotorMotion E-Series tonight in the Trak Racer TCR Cup, the home of Gran Turismo 7 here, as we like to say. Check us out on www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com for articles, for information, for series, regulations, and everything that you need to get started with the lobby. It's open to absolutely everyone, and you're more than welcome to come in. Taking a look at our team's title standings at the moment, there's 3 standouts here with a lot of close battling happening around the entire standings pool. Cougar Driver Development is still leading us away by a big margin at the moment, with Whiplash Motorsport, Monica Camilleri's team in 2nd spot, and then Colin Racing Team in 3rd position. So let's start moving on, because we want to get into Lobby 1 as soon as possible. They are starting to line up on the grid out there right now. So previous results, Monza last week, it was a great race out there. 24 laps on the hard tires. Andrew Scott taking the victory in Lobby 1 and the fastest lap, with Robert Foster and Tyler Lansdell bringing the 2nd and 3rd position there. So it was a good race overall, but I think we're ready for the qualifying results. Nick, let's throw it over to you to take us through the grid for Lobby 1 at St. Croix C.
The 10 minutes around this circuit doesn't seem like a long time here, so you get about 2 to 3 clean laps here, and it is the man from CP Motorsports in Dan Wood taking pole position away from Robert Foster in position 2. Mick Hill outqualifies his teammate, his more experienced teammate in Andrew Scott. Both Cougar drivers VW Scirocco's in 3rd and 4th place. So good. We'll be keeping an eye on those Cougars right behind there, but watch out for Dan Wood. He missed last time out at Monza, so he's going to be coming in with full of vengeance. But this is the lobby we love to see. Dan Wood versus Robert Foster versus Andrew Scott in the one lobby. Then we have Matthew Johnson for Juiced Motorsports in 5th place. Peter McKenzie in 6th, and alongside his teammate in Ben Churchill in 7th place. And then Tony Griffin rounds up the top 8. So we've got a mixture of Swifts right behind there, a couple of the Juiced Motorsport Swifts and the Road Sick Racing Swifts. So we'll be keeping an eye to see those guys up the front. So far, very interesting. We're actually seeing 5 Suzuki Swifts inside the top 8. So very interesting to see that this car is a lot better than what it was last time out at Monza. Then we have Glenn Mead, Big Bruce the Shark in 9th place. Ricky Rick rounds up the top 10. Matthew Hatton in 11th place for ISA Esports. He's been missing for a little while, but now he's back in the car for ISA Esports in 11th. And then we have Kevin Cooper rounding up 12th position in the 2nd CP Motorsports entry. So we don't believe we saw Glenn Mead last time out at Monza, so we'll be able to see what he can do. Troy Britnell, and the sole Lightning Motorsports Suzuki Swift driver in 13th place. And then we have Benjamin Blaker rounding up the rear of the grid in 14th and last place. 15th and 16th are left vacant because unfortunately we've had a withdrawal from Rusty Nuts Racing. It was breaking news last time out at the end of Monza, where I somehow managed to sub in for the driver. Craig Harcourt just approached me and he said to me, come drive for a little bit. Had a massive engine cease and the car just went spearing into the tyre barrier at the end of Ascaria. So thankfully I'm all right as a driver, but unfortunately the car is just it's in shambles at the moment. It's in pieces, and unfortunately with Robo Sport in Richard Robinson, he has also withdrawn from this season. Therefore, unfortunately, Rusty Nuts Racing withdrawing from the TCR Cup for Saint-Croissant and onwards.
Beautiful. And I was very impressed as well in the previous race when you actually came back to the commentary box. Somehow they let you out of the hospital wing there at Monza, and you were fine, which is great. So a testament to the Hans device and all the safety equipment inside these cars for the drivers. So it was great to see you come back to the comms box because you clearly weren't even winded. So there you go. There's hats off to safety, right? Thank you very much for that, Nick. We're going to jump into the race right now. The cars are ready. They're lined up on the grid. So I believe it is time to get started with Lobby 1 here at Saint-Croissant. I think that's going to stick, don't you think, guys?
Absolutely, that's the only name for it. But here we are. We are 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights for what is going to be 12 long laps around Saint-Croix, and it's lights out, green flag racing. A nice launch there from Dan Wood, but an even better launch for Robert Foster in the Audi TT. Watch for that Audi TT to pull alongside or into the inside line. Going to hold it around with Dan Wood, and then we have Mick Hill right behind, and we have Matthew Johnson making a move, early moves so far, but it's going to be very tight here. 3 wide going into turn 1, but look at that. Matthew Johnson goes from 5th to 3rd in a span of a couple of corners there. So nice early start there by the man from Juiced Motorsports, with Ando ahead of his teammate in Mick Hill in 5th place. Peter McKenzie 6th, Tony Griffin 7th, and Ben Churchill rounding up the top 8. But a solid start for Matthew Johnson in 3rd place as we go down into turn 3. Dan Wood leads the way ahead of the 14-man field.
Exactly right. These first 3 corners are very, very tricky. That fast left-hander leading into a very tight right-hander. Now into this part of the circuit where things get very, very scary if you do miss your apex. See, running wide there a little bit using as much track as possible is Dan Wood. That's how you've got to attack this kind of circuit. There is plenty of room on this track. You've got to make sure that you've got the right angle going into the corners, so there's barriers and gravel traps all around there. And looks like Matthew Johnson and Andrew Scott now getting very, very close on track. And they're right on the back of Robert Foster, this battle pack of 4, leading us away as they head into Sector 2 for the first time in this race. Now, of course, there is a mandatory hard tyre here today, so they will be a mix of potential strategies that we will talk about a little bit later in this race. They have to use the hard tyres today, but all compounds are, in fact, available. This is one of my favourite parts of the circuit, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming down out of the back section through the windy section onto the bridge where we can see the Riviera along Saint-Croix. We have Dan Wood approaching that very nicely there. Cars look very stable around this on the opening laps there, so it looks like the front four might be on a little bit of a softer compound there, but as we look back to Mick Hill, who's in 5th place, he looks like he's dropping well back behind his teammates, so he must be running a different alternate strategy in 5th place, maybe on the harder compound, because he's losing so much time to his teammate as Scott is about to put a move on Matthew Johnson going onto the exit onto the bridge here. A little bit more straight line speed has the Scirocco and makes the move stick. Can Johnson hold around the outside? Better for him to stay tucked in underneath the rear wing, but here we go. This is definitely what I like to call the long neck straight. So, because if you get a beer, you have a long neck, you want to sink it down and get it down as quickly as you can, and that's what these cars are all about. Trying to get down through this long stretch as fast as possible. Get a really nice exit out of the left, out of the right-hander, and prepare yourself for this long straight. Have a drink, settle in, because the next 11 and a half laps is going to be a long strategic race.
Exactly right. We are going to see some pit stops. We're not 100% sure when. We will have our reports from our pit lane reporter. That is Robert Foster. He might have had the overspeed there, and he'll have the inside line, but can he get it done? There's a little bit of scraping of paint there between the Mad Turtle Racing car and Dan Wood for CP Motorsports. Looks like Robert Foster has managed to do it around the outside, but there's a bit of overlap between these two into one of the trickiest sections where you almost certainly want to be single file. Dan Wood pulls back in. A nice switch back there. Oh.
Lovely stuff there by Dan Wood. Gets the advantage over Robert Foster, so brilliant racing amongst the top three. But this is the battle we've always wanted to see here, George, from the get-go of Season 2 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. Dan Wood versus Robert Foster versus Andrew Scott. First, second, and third place. My goodness, we have a juicy lobby here. But at the conclusion of lap 1, coming towards the final corner, it is Dan Wood in his Suzuki Swift, back into his Suzuki Swift, CP Motorsports Swift, after missing last round at Monza, back into the first place as we see drivers coming into the pit lane right now. A very interesting strategies here. Foster, Ando, and we have Johnson, Mick Hill, Tony Griffin, all on the hard tyres. So very different strategies that these drivers are going for.
Exactly right. Looks like they've all decided to potentially go for a multi-stop strategy here. We will see towards the end of this race, but the hard tires, according to all of those drivers, only good for that first lap, getting rid of them immediately to go onto a softer compound of tires and give themselves a little bit more speed. Purple sectors now being set by Dan Wood, who's got a substantial advantage now across the rest of the field, but mainly because his competitors, especially in the ones that we really want to see, Ando and Robert Foster, into the pits and changing their tires. This is going to be very, very interesting to see where he comes out and where Dan decides to pit in this race, because I believe he may well be on the hard tires, just judging by the way that he was really not pulling away from the rest of the group there.
Yeah, exactly right. And we'd like to bring in our pit lane expert in Andrew Scott, the man that is currently driving on the track here down in 7th place after making his first pit stop. Good evening, Andrew. What can you tell us about the strategies that we are seeing so far within this opening lap?
Yes, g'day guys, g'day viewers. Yeah, interestingly, everyone started on the hards. Would you believe the top 4 got away because there was a little bit of argy-bargy into turn 3 between PJ and disposable hero, Mick Hill. So that's what caused the gap. The front 4 checked out really on lap 1. But yeah, there's 2 strategies at play today, the 1-stop and the 2-stop. It looks like Dan Wood definitely is going for the 1-stop strategy on the hards. And his main rivals have all opted for the 2-stop, so it'll be great to see how this plays out.
Absolutely, and what we see down there as well, looks like Robert Foster's just been delayed up a little bit in the pit lane, so he must have been held up in one of his pit stops. It must have been a slow stop from the Mad Turtle Racing, because he's now behind his teammate in Glenn Mead, which we didn't see him in the opening lap there, so he was well down outside the top 8. So he's had a bit of a mischief there in the pit lane. Did Robert Foster? He's down in 12th place.
He took on some fuel. He took on some fuel, whereas the others didn't.
There we go. Easy.
So that's going to be interesting for him, isn't it? Because it has, like you said, it has dropped him quite far back behind Ando, Matthew Johnson, who he was up there fighting with. We'll see if this works out for him. I mean, taking fuel at this stage might be interesting to see what kind of tyre he's got onto, whether he's trying to run a little bit longer in this race. I suppose we're expecting the hards to be able to run pretty much the entire race if you really wanted them to, but I don't think there's going to be many out there opting for that strategy today.
No, definitely not.
The hard runners will definitely still do a 1-stop. The fuel can make 7 laps if they really try, but that's about it. So definitely a 1-stop at the minimum. But it looks like Rolls has taken on some fuel, and he's going to really rev this car out and go full send for the rest of the race.
He's got his teammate ahead of him as well in Glenn Mead, so he's going to be using him as a slipstream advantage down the long neck. But as we can see here, we can see that Anders has actually made a move on Ricky Rick for Lightning Motorsport, so he's up into 6th place. He's not too far behind Dan Woodis. Dan Woodis coming up towards the last couple of corners, and we can see Scott is coming into this windy back section of San Quai C. Then we have Peter McKenzie, Matthew Hadson in 3rd place, Kevin Cooper rounds up the top 4, and then Ando, the first of the pit stoppers, in 5th place here. So, as we said, different strategies can play effective to some drivers. As we see here, Dan Wood has picked up a half-second penalty for cutting one of the corners there, going very wide on the last corner here. Let's see what he does. He stays out. So actually, it's very tricky because the cars are going so far right. You can see the pit lane line there, but you just don't know if they're coming into the pit lane. It's very, very hard to spot. But it looks like he's sticking out for yet another lap. And looks like the same is going to be with his teammate in Kevin Cooper in 4th place, just to momentarily make it a CP Motorsports 1-2. There we go, as official. So I'm sure the team boss in Chase Persh will be very happy to see his boys 1st and 2nd place at the moment. But as I say that, Andrew Scott has now taken P2 away from Kevin Cooper, so spoiling the party for Chase.
Exactly, and even with that 0.5-second penalty, Dan Wood sticking with his strategy, just stay on the hard tyres for the moment. We'll see if he pits at the end of this lap. Maybe 3 laps will be enough for him on the hard tyres. But at the end of the day, as we did hear from our pit lane reporter, 7 laps the fuel will last at full blast in these cars. So he's only got a few more laps, really, to make a decision as to whether he's going to pit early and get rid of those hard tyres. I imagine the rest of the field probably looking at a 2-stop strategy here in this race, Nick.
Definitely. I think a 2-stopper will definitely play into their hands. As we saw there, some of the drivers that did come into the pit lane, they didn't take on fuel. So it was a good analysis there by Andrew Scott in the pit lane, just saying the only man was Robert Foster. So it'll be obviously, definitely they'll be looking for a 2-stop strategy, because if these guys are going to really go full revs or 75% rev limiter, it would be very crucial to try and make that 6th, 7th lap there without compromising your strategy. Because yes, you come into the pit lane, you don't take any fuel, but you're in the same situation as what Dan Wood is in 1st place. You might gain 2-3 seconds a lap, especially with this long layouts. But you have to also think about that you're running the same fuel numbers as the man in 1st place.
Yeah, exactly right. So Robert Foster, having pitted on lap 1, he's only added an extra lap onto his total stint time with regards to fuel. So unless he's fuel saving, he's not going to be going particularly far. He's holding just ahead of his teammate Glenn Mead at the moment. They're both behind the Juice Motorsport car of Tony Griffin, who's driving behind what we're on board with now, Kevin Cooper. So, and unfortunately for the CP Motorsports chaps, that's 2 cars on track, both with a 0.5-second penalty that will be served at the long neck straight, and that is a pretty painful penalty because it's such a long straight. Even 0.5 seconds can really hurt you, as we do see a move in the background, and looks like Robert Foster is going to go and try around the outside of Tony Griffin. Can he do it?
Yeah, it looks like he's just going to hold around the outside. Griffo will shove him the nose there, keeps him enough room there, but Foster thinks otherwise. He knows it's a long race. But it looks like we can see Griffo actually making a move on Kevin Cooper, and he has done. So Kevin Cooper's gone from 5th place. He's going to drop down to 7th, potentially behind Glenn Mead, even though he's going to come up to the penalty burn zone, which you have to burn. I believe it's on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the burn zone there. And then you can see there from 5th, or potentially P2 at the start of lap 3 down to P8. So not the best
damage.
So not the best lap for Kevin Cooper. And as I just heard there from our pit reporter, he has got damage, so he is confirming his car is pulling a little bit on the long neck straight, so he'll definitely need to come to the pit lane somehow. But I can notice a difference here between the 2 cars. You've got the Suzuki Swift very strong in the corners and in the brakes, and then you've got the Audi TT very strong in the straight line speed, as we saw there with Griffo. And early on lap 1, the battle between Dan Wood and Robert Foster, yes, we saw Robert Foster take the lead, but Dan Wood in this section all alone managed to pull it in and just really get back up into the rear wing of Robert Foster and get that move around the outside coming into these last couple of corners here. So you can see the characteristics between both Suzuki Swifts and the Audi TT. The Scirocco as well, very strong in the straight line, very good around the corners as well. But I think just cornering speed and breakability, it's definitely the Suzuki Swift there. You can even see there with Tony Griffin really applying, really taking advantage of the nimbleness of the Suzuki.
That's exactly right. The Suzuki does seem to be able to go into the corners with a lot more grip. The nose seems to just really absolutely stick to the tarmac, and that was a little bit of a bump of the inner wall there at turn 1. Tony Griffin manages to keep it out of the wall on the outside of turn 1 and keeps it nice and clean into turn 2. He'll have a good run down this first straight here on Robert Foster, but the question is, as we talked about before, we've got top line speed versus cornering speed. The man we're on board with now, Tony Griffin, is not in a car that has that great top speed, but he does have the inside line. He will be better under the brakes and into the corner, as you can see there.
The brakes.
Yeah, that's amazing. We saw that on Nick, didn't we, in the last few corners? Really got on the brakes, able to take a much shallower line into the apex and get out onto the throttle earlier as well.
Absolutely, it's great parity between all cars. There's strengths and weaknesses. We can definitely, and we're seeing it in well display here around St. Croix, as we see that. Oh, Foster almost thought about going for the inside move there. The car is, you're so blind, you do not have time to look at your radar or through your peripheral vision just to see if there's a car on the inside, because the car, as soon as you exit out of the first left-hander, then going into the braking zone, as Foster puts on a brilliant move there around the outside with full speed, full send for Robert Foster up into P5. So he finally got the move done. Looks like you'll be able to clear Tony Griffin a little bit more there. And now he's got his teammate in Glenn Mead behind. But yeah, I was about to say, as you're going around some of the corners here, they are a bit blind, so drivers won't really have time to react. It kind of reminds me of the Cutting and Forest Elbow at Mount Panorama. They are very fast corners, very opportunistic moves to make an overtake, but not 100% of the time it works. So drivers are always very tentative on making moves around corners like that.
Exactly. When you can't see the exit of the corner, it does play on the confidence of the driver and the knowledge of the circuit. And with 24 turns here to navigate, you're not always going to have the exact corner in mind unless you've done a lot of practice, which of course these drivers and teams will have been doing, but it's never fun. This is another example of a corner that is very blind. You've got to get that braking zone absolutely spot on. There's no really good marker on the road for that, so you have to figure that out in practice, and you have to get the power on as soon as possible. But that little corner there, it looks like one apex, but there's essentially a double apex there, and very much blind and slightly off camber too. Not fun when you need to get the power down as soon as possible for the long neck straight. So leading us away, of course, Dan Wood in P1 at the moment, and then Ando is still in P2. So Dan Wood has yet, I believe, to pit. We have not yet seen him come into the pit lane, so he'll still be on his racing hard tyres. He'll be about halfway or just about there, maybe 60% of the way through his fuel. Fastest lap, though, being held by P2. Behind him, a 3:44.136 from Andrew Scott for Me Cooke Driver Development, the 787 car.
6 seconds difference in lap time there. Dan Wood sitting a 3:50 on the last lap, and then you've got Andrew Scott 6 seconds faster. That just shows you the difference in the tyre compound. I was predicting 2-3 seconds a lap faster, but that is insane speed by the man in car 787. So I don't know, if you were Dan Wood, you would try to come into the pit lane, but I think if you come in now, you're just going to ruin your strategy. You're just not going to have enough time, and you will really need to save so much fuel. As he goes faster on this lap, a 3-minute 42.9. And looking at Dan Wood's time, I think he went personal best on that last lap. He did a 3:48, but still, the gap is still about 6 seconds, just under 6 seconds.
Yeah, he's sticking to his guns, which you've got to respect. But at the end of the day, you're right. He's past that point of no return. He has to commit to the strategy that he's on now, despite what's happening in his rearview mirror. But when he came out, when Andrew pitted and then came out behind him, there was a couple of corners at least, a straight and a couple of corners between both Dan Wood and Ando in the space of 3 or 4 laps. That lead has completely evaporated. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew Scott is able to find a way past Dan Wood either this lap or next lap, because they are only separated on track by a few seconds now.
Yeah, also
Ando here with a little bit of an update for you guys.
Yes, go for it. Go for it, Ando. What can you tell us? What's
interesting to see.
The battle?
Yeah, so Ando's reeling in, the Me Cooke cars are reeling in Dan Wood on the hard, so it's maybe turning out to be not the best strategy for Dan Wood on the one-stopper on the hards. But interesting to see Rolls can hardly, Robert Foster, who when he pitted, he took some fuel. And what that did was it got him stuck in traffic. He got stuck in traffic and he's lost significant time now. If he wants to podium tonight or indeed win the race, he's going to have to pull something out of somewhat of a rabbit out of the hat, because that decision he made to take some fuel really cost him big time because he got stuck in traffic.
So you think track position is key around this circuit? Is that right? Is that what we're saying with the likes of the Cooke driver in 787? You know, yes, he sacrificed his speed, as we see Dan Wood just clipping the barrier there. It'll look like a little bit of net code there, but he's coming under fire from car 787. So it's essentially track position is key around this circuit.
Yeah, it is, particularly when you're coming back out on track with some people on a different strategy. So those mid-pack drivers that are on the hard tyre, you do not want to get stuck behind them when you've just put on the softs.
No, exactly right. And then, of course, you are dealing with a little bit of that dirty air as well. It's not always the fastest thing to be following another car's at another scrape of the barrier there for Dan Wood. He is totally compromised on the straight now. Andrew Scott is going to take the position. Huge move across the road there. Cuts the beak off of Dan Wood there. I'm sure Dan Wood's not particularly happy. Still trying to shake the slipstream there. Not happy having a Suzuki Swift behind him at all as Andrew Scott, and into the braking zone they will go. That was unbelievable.
Oh, just left him just enough room on the exit there. Was compromised going onto long neck, and then unfortunately just lost the drive there. Ando goes for the inside. Dan Wood just squeezing him into the barrier, but he just came out of there on top of it. And as we saw there, the Suzuki Swift has just got no pull to hang on to the back of the Scirocco. So unfortunately for him, he's just going to have to settle in, just probably bite a bitter pill, and we'll just try and come up with a different strategy. Maybe try and essentially just save his tyres with the softs coming up on his next stop, and essentially really just come up with something different, because Dan Wood, we know he's a fast driver. He's very experienced around this circuit, as well as the like of Andrew Scott. Both race in the Trackstars Touring Cars Championship and have also competed in the St. Croix 1500. So both are very well knowledgeable around this circuit. So both will be showing their expertise around this. I believe it's about 12 kilometer circuit here at St. Croix. Mick Hill rounds up into third place. I believe he just made the move on Matthew Johnson on the previous lap there, so he's up into third place. So Cooke first and third, just where we usually like, just where we always see them in any lobby that they race in. They're always up into that top 5 and any pole position. Oh, full send goes Matthew Johnson, and into the barriers goes clobbering Matthew Johnson on Mick Hill there. He looks like he'll need to redress that, because that was a big send. I did talk about the big balls on the brakes with the Suzuki Swift there, but that was a bit too ballsy there, unfortunately, for Matthew Johnson, and clobbered Mick Hill into the barrier.
Mighty send, and there's big damage there as well, of course, so that everyone is aware. Heavy damage setting is on for this TCR Trak Racer Season 2. That means that the damage that those two are now absolutely holding on their cars has got to be repaired in the pit lane. It is going to compromise them throughout the rest of this lap, and bear in mind that happened at turn 1 out of 24. They've got a very, very fast Robert Foster in behind as well. The redress there done by Matthew Johnson, who gets a couple of tyres on the gravel on the outside, trying to look for a move. But what car control we have seen there from the Juice Motorsports driver, but it's not helping his cause at all. Mick Hill will get a little bit of a breather there from Matthew Johnson, but quite a moment there from the Suzuki Swift driver of Juice Motorsport.
Yeah, so the two drivers, both car 3 and 777, compromising themselves on the exit of turn 1, going into turn 2. Both clobbered, both getting damage out of it. And as you said, Robert Foster's right behind there in the fast Mad Turtle Audi TT. Looking at these boys, watching that gap time, watching the gap come down very significantly at the exit of turn 2, and just thinking, yes, boys, you know, obviously something's happened at turn 2. And I'm here to pound. So you can see there he's a lot more confident through the windy section going up to the bridge. He's closed the gap at least 3-4 tenths there within a span of a few corners, and onto the bridge. Really going to reel in the Suzuki Swift and the Scirocco, both pulling. I believe they're pulling left onto the straight here, so they're really going to be struggling here. You can see Matthew Johnson still trying to go for a move on Mick Hill, but it's not going to be enough there. So I feel like Matthew Johnson's going to be in a little bit of trouble there with the stewards at the end of this, but they're still going defensive. They're still going side by side. Foster's just waiting and waiting patiently. Is Robert Foster. He doesn't want to get caught up in any of this. He just needs to tuck into a slipstream from one of the drivers and try and get a 2-for-1 at the end of Long Neck.
Exactly, and of course Robert Foster is in the car that has a slightly better top speed than both the cars ahead. He will be getting dragged along by the slipstream. Matthew Joynson will have the slipstream as well. We'll see if he decides to try and work with Mick Hill or if there's going to be another move, but as more they fight, the more that it brings Robert Foster in, and of course Robert Foster not holding too much damage or any damage on that car, certainly not as much as the two cars ahead, as we do see Matthew Joynson go up the inside of Mick Hill. Can he get it stopped? Yes, only just, but they're about 5 miles away from the apex there. Forces Mick Hill very wide into the corner. Mick Hill will continue to have the inside line as we head up to this very tricky S section of the track. Robert Foster is quite happy to sit in behind here and watch this happen, and that's very wide for Mick Hill. Very wide for Mick Hill, avoiding action by Robert Foster. Mick Hill is in the barrier.
Oh, he's just saved it though. He's just dropped down to P5, just went very wide onto the grass there. So unfortunately the understeer just kicked into him with that damage, just did not help him at all. The Cooke, number 3 in 5th place. That's a very unfortunate end where he was P3 at the start of lap 6, unfortunately down to P5. We can see there Matthew Joynson. Yeah, Matthew Johnson's run wide on the last
no, Robert Foster.
Oh, he saved it. That is unbelievable car control. But this is a key crucial moment that Foster has. He's got the extra lap of fuel while everyone else is coming in at the end of lap 6. The start of lap 7, it is Robert Foster leading the way ahead of the rest of the pack there. You can see everyone coming into the pit lane. Ando came in on 10 litres of fuel. Dan Wood on 8, so a little bit more fuel advantage going towards the Scirocco driver, and he'll still be able to maintain P1 at the exit of the pit lane.
No one in that battle pack got those last 10 corners right at all. It was an absolute mess there from all three drivers getting things wrong, but everyone displaying incredible car control to make sure that they don't have a problem. 98% of fuel on board for Dan Wood as he comes out of the pits. Andrew Scott out of the pits as well. Dan Wood will be on the softer tire, and I think the interesting thing with Dan Wood is that he's had to double down on that strategy. He's well past the threshold, I think, now of considering a two-stop strategy. He's gonna have to commit to whatever he's decided to do, which does appear to be that one stop. Go long on the hard, now pit, and then absolutely go for it. The rest of the field thinking the two-stop strategy is going to be superior, but for Dan Wood, it's a little bit worse because he's now got the Lightning Motorsports Suzuki of Ricky Rick in between him and his competitor, and that gap is quite wide now, I would say, between Dan Wood and Andrew Scott.
Yeah, pit lane update for you guys.
Please.
Yes, go for it.
It looks like Dan Wood has opted for the mediums. So he not only was leaking oil there at the end of his hard stint, but he's obviously not confident on doing 6 laps on the soft. So he's opted for the mediums, and he's given Ando a bit of a leash there as well. So it's not looking good for Dan at the moment.
So in theory, if in the end of it, as we call it in a tennis match, it could be game, set, and match for car 787. But we're only halfway into this race here, so anything can happen. Especially with a wide circuit like this, even though it looks easy on paper, and you go on the track and see how wide it is. It's incredible. With these TCR cars, you could probably potentially fit 4 cars, 5 cars down the back of Long Neck straights. Surely that could be something that we could get a photo of one day, to see all the TCR cars in their glory down Long Neck straight. And yeah, but I think in a way that's given Ando a bit of a free kick in 4th place, and he'll be waiting patiently for the top 3 in Robert Foster, Peter McKenzie, and Matthew Hasden from ISA Esports in 3rd place. He'll be waiting for these guys patiently to make their pit stop, and he'll reclaim P1 potentially at the end of this race. But it is not over yet.
Certainly isn't, and 10.8 kilometers and another 6 laps to go in this race, 7 including this one. So there's a lot of distance at the end of the day. Some of these lap times are looking very, very quick. Of course, fastest lap, still with Andrew Scott, a 3:42.9. So it just goes to show you it's well over double. Well, actually not quite double, or maybe just that double of Monza, which we had last time round. So these are very, very long tracks. It's very, very complicated, and I'm still trying to get my head around what we saw at the end of the previous lap with 3 cars in 3 or 4 corners going wide, and the commentator's curse there onto Robert Foster as he does run wide, but the car control he's demonstrated today has been absolutely second to none. controlling those excursions, I think we can call them, off track there and keeping the car nice and stable. In a way, maybe spending a bit of karma there.
Yeah, he's spent, those tyres and fuel are spent. He'll be in this lap.
There we go. So as he came around this corner here, he almost flew himself over to Japan, going full drift around the final corner here, but now he's looking like he's going to come into the pit lane. As I said here, the drive is very sneaky there. You have to run up right against the barrier just to get onto the start finish straight. That's the optimal line here, but because the pit line is right there, you just don't know if people are going to be turning right, and it just becomes very tricky for the eyesight here. As we see Peter McKenzie into the pit lane as well. 19 litres of fuel here, so that is a huge amount of fuel saving done in the Suzuki Swift in the Road Sync Racing. So I'll be very keen to see what the strategy is as we see the fuel nozzle going into the car of Robert Foster, and then we're going to see Peter McKenzie's come through right now. So it's not a bit of a small gap there, and I think if that's the case, Peter McKenzie will be definitely short fueling his stint here. As we look at the numbers very closely here, as they get up towards 80 litres, up to 90 litres. Let's see what Peter McKenzie does. No, he's still putting in a bit of fuel there. So unfortunately, for what I thought was going to be an interesting strat there, maybe Peter McKenzie might get the jump over Robert Foster. Unfortunately not there, as the drivers are leaving the pit lane. It is a very, very slow exit because you've got the drivers coming in at just at least over 220 kilometers down the pit straight.
That's exactly right, and Glenn Mead has come out ahead of his teammate. So Robert Foster down in P6, Glenn Mead up into P3 for Mad Turtle Racing. Wow. And that is an impressive. That is really impressive. What has Glenn Mead done here? He's really done something special, I think.
Yeah, Ando here with an update. What Brucey's done is he's stayed out of trouble. He's had clean air the whole race, and he's executing a masterful strategy yet again, and he's reaping the rewards.
There you go. So that is the advantage. Andrew Scott, what is the tyre that Glenn Mead is on at the moment? Is it the soft tyre?
Yeah, he's on fresh softs. He's got fuel till the end, and he's good to go. So he's in a comfortable third position here, although he does have Johnson on within range. So this will be a good battle to watch play out for third.
Absolutely.
You've got Johnson, you've got Mick Hill, who came out of the pit lane. Both Johnson and Mick Hill suffering damage on a few laps ago, and Robert Foster right behind there. So at the top, so those three fellas are still within close quarters of each other there. But yeah, like you said, the biggest beneficiary out of all that was Glenn Mead. And we always call it here, George, every time we see Glenn Mead's up towards the pointy end, we always see him coming up with a very unusual strategy, or he's just keeping his car clean and reaping rewards there. And so far, he's running very nicely in P3. Probably, obviously, not the faster driver compared to himself and Robert Foster, but when it comes to tactics and strategy, it looks like he's got one up on his teammate.
Yeah, that does seem to be the dynamic in the Mad Turtle Racing team. Robert Foster is definitely the faster of the two drivers, but he does seem to have less luck in the race, so don't buy a lotto ticket, Robert Foster. You probably won't get it, but Glenn Mead, buy a lotto ticket, because your luck seems to swing your way more often than not. And certainly, you know, it's that race consistency. You might not be the fastest driver on track, but if you can manage the race really well, manage your tires, and be a bit more consistent, and in some ways get lucky, get a cleaner race, then you can be in a better situation overall, and that is certainly the case today. Not always the case with those two guys. Of course, we've seen Robert Foster with plenty of excellent results due to his speed and having some very clean races too, but in this case, this time, not really working out. Interestingly as well, Mick Hill coming out of the pits behind Matthew Joynson. I wonder in that accident if Mick Hill somehow had more damage from that and was able to had to stay in the pits a little bit longer. We do see the move there from Mick Hill, so he will get that position back quite handily as well, I might say. But do we reckon that Mick Hill maybe had a little bit more damage than Matthew Joynson, despite Matthew Joynson being the one to send it into turn one?
Well, he did go. Oh, there we go. So I was thinking that because when Mick Hill got clobbered into turn two, obviously his front right wheel would have been caved in with the camber facing in all the wrong direction. But then when he hit the guardrail, the same happened as well. So he probably could have been front left and front right suspension damage in car number 3 there. So as we heard there, no damage from Matthew Joynson. But what I did notice there as well there, even though Mick Hill got the run and made the move on Matthew Joynson, he cleared the car very easily. I think what Joynson did was he actually pulled back a little bit and actually stayed and actually decided to say, you know what, I don't want to get myself into trouble. You take the position, and fourth place is his. So I think what Joyce did was right. He definitely did not want to fight him because he knows two things. One, he hasn't got a fastest car in a straight line, and two, doesn't want to face the stewards at the end of the race. As we can see there, runs very wide, scraping the barrier into turn 1.
Exactly
And
right.
can I just say that he did do the right thing at the first stint, that little coming together with Mick Hill. He did redress straight away. So kudos to Johnson for doing that. And I will say that I think Mick Hill had a little bit of the red mist there down the back straight. He was definitely wanting to make that buzz. He wasn't going to be backing off to make that move there, I can tell you for sure.
100%. Yeah, that is the nature of most drivers, I would say, when that sort of incident happened. But of course, Matthew Joynson, we've seen him in many series here at MotorMotion E-Series and around Juice Motorsport, being a very well-known organization. I think Matthew Joynson is part of the PLE group, the Pit Lane Esports group, Shane Kenty, for those of you who do know that lovely, lovely man. So I do know that the driving standard that Matthew Joynson adheres to is very, very high standard, and that was, as we did say, that we had a heart and throat moment there for Matthew Joynson. He's run very, very wide onto the grass, and now this is going to open up Robert Foster to come through. He doesn't want to, he's done it again, so Matthew Joynson, 2 corners in a row, dirty tyres, and dirty tyres again and again. Controls the car though. Wow, impressive from Matthew Joynson, but also, unfortunately, he's compromised himself massively, hasn't accounted for the fact that he's got dirty tyres, and through goes Robert Foster. Robert Foster will be absolutely stoked with that. He's like, brilliant, next driver up the road, Mick Hill, let's go after him.
Yeah, Joynson there obviously had a few bad corners. It's time to regather himself. But yeah, I agree with you totally there, George. Definitely a driver that cares about his standards, and I think that mistake he made when it caused contact and damage to Mick Hill was an honest mistake there. Definitely just missed his brake marker there in the first couple of laps. But now he's got PJ Mack to worry about, but PJ Mack actually has a penalty.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, before, as we get to the point there with Matthew Joynson, yes, he did get caught up in the incident with Mick Hill a few laps ago, and obviously just on this second seat, he's not looking like himself there. He had a very strong first stint. Unfortunately, when you make contact with a driver and you're the one that causes damage on that driver, you do take a bit of that blame there. Yes, you redress. Yes, you do the right thing, try not to go to the steward's room, but as well, it just gives you that little bit of lack of confidence there. So you as a driver, Ando, when you have a moment like that, when you know you've made when you know you're in the wrong, and you are a little bit hot-headed underneath the race helmet, how do you change the way that you drive? Do you drive a little bit more cautious? When it comes to drivers, making an overtake on you, or do you just kind of go back to where you were in stint 1? You're thinking, yes, I had the confidence, I had the pace, I had the consistency. I just need to get myself back into gear.
Yeah, well, I'm not often in the wrong, mate. What are you saying?
Maybe I should answer this question then.
Yeah,
so I'm in the wrong plenty out on track.
Seen it in second 1, mate. But yeah, no. That's right. When you do make a mistake, whether it be an incident or something that is reportable to the stewards or not, when you do have those few bad corners, you've just got to reset. You've just got to, start again almost, and you just got to listen to your tyres and make sure you make your braking points and your apexes, and just start again and just build up that pace gradually once again, so that you're back up to 100%.
Exactly right. It's something that I think every driver eventually learns, and the way that I've thought about it often is trying to understand where your mind is at when you're at your peak. So this is almost the sort of the mental side of driving, not necessarily just your driver's skill, talent, knowledge of the track, but also just knowing where your balanced self is, what that feels like. And then when incidents do happen, or you get disappointed in your own race or at a corner, you know how to reset, you know how to bring yourself back into that sort of balance point in your mind. And that's where you're going to have your best race, and that's where you're going to be the most stable across the entire lap and across your entire race. And I think that's what you've got to do. When you get that red mist, you've got to go, right, put it to the back of my mind. How do I feel now? I feel awful. Right, let's bring that back and shift it back to the neutral balance point that I know that I race well at.
Yeah, it's important not to compound a mistake by making another one, and also very important to redress. I think if you know you're in the wrong, or if you're in doubt, always redress. And, then you can regroup and you can race on with a clean conscience.
Yeah, and I think we've seeing that demonstration right now there. We can see Matthew Joyce is back into his rhythm and is right beneath the rear wing of Robert Foster's, looking for an inside move on the double left-hander. Doesn't make it, unfortunately, but we can see there the confidence is back in the man in car 777, wanting to get himself back up towards the front there, up into P5, but just has to sit behind the Mad Turtle Racing Audi TTS. We look down towards the back of the field. We haven't seen too much love down the back of the field. We can see Peter McKenzie running around in 7th place, and Tony Griffin in 8th place, so the second of the Juiced Motorsports in 8th place. And then we have Matthew Hatton in 9th place, the first of the Intercontinental Esports Renault Megane, the only Renault Megane in Lobby 1 in 9th place. And then we have Maverick in 10th place. And then unfortunately here, the familiar name we don't see down here, Ben Churchill in 11th place there. Doesn't look like his strategy has not been working out for him whatsoever there. We can see his lap times in the 3-minute 50s, 3-minute 48s. Maybe just not so confident driving around this circuit here as it goes very wide there. As I said, as a case in point there, unfortunately, just lack of knowledge, lack of track time, maybe lack of knowledge, or just maybe just showing a little bit of inconsistencies throughout this whole race, and not the race that we always see.
You'll be so happy you went to war with him right at that moment, guys. Yeah, well done.
Absolutely. So looks like it's just not finding the sweet spot around St. Croix in 11th place, and then we have Kevin Cooper down in 12th place. Was running up pretty highly along with his teammate, but unfortunately just a couple of strategies not working his way. Probably the CP strategist is not really on his point here. I think he did come into the pit lane quite early, so I wonder if he's compromising, maybe doing a bit of fuel saving, and may have to come back into the pit lane for a splash and dash, because I think he did come in very early with Kevin Cooper in 12th place. Then we have Troy Britnell in 13th for the owner of the Lightning Motorsports in car 55, rounding in 13th place. And then we have Benjamin Blaker, the second of the Intercontinental Renault Meganes, in 14th out of the 14 runners here tonight, with Andrew Scott, Dan Wood and Brucey, your top three.
Yes, so you're absolutely right. Not too much love given to those down the bottom of the field. The field is very spread right now. We've got nearly a full lap between first and last place at the moment, and that's a long distance to have between the drivers. But Andrew Scott up the front of the field, and he has got basically a full straight between him and Dan Wood. So Dan Wood, as we come up onto the second to last lap of this race, Dan Wood is absolutely, well, he's not a mile back, but it's getting up towards probably a kilometre behind at the moment. So Dan Wood and the strategy that he's stuck to, and I've got to give him props at the end of the day for sticking with his strategy. Sometimes you've just got to do that. Sometimes improvising doesn't work, but also it's one of those skills to be able to adapt to what is going on around you. I think, you know, if you're in a situation where you're first place, you've had a great first lap, and then you see every single car that you're competing with pit immediately on lap 1. I was really expecting Dan Wood to adjust his strategy, come in on pit and pit on lap 2. He didn't do that. He stayed out, and before he pitted, he lost the position to Andrew Scott. And then, yeah, Bruce the Shark. I mean, this is amazing work from Glenn Mead. He's fallen a little bit back. Mick Hill has been catching him in the last couple of laps here, but he's still putting on a really good show here, is Glenn Mead. This is a solid drive for him, and if he gets a P3 here today, not only will Mad Turtle will be absolutely stoked, I believe he will be too. I don't think we've seen Glenn Mead on the podium step in the Season 2 so far.
No, I don't think we have either. Yeah, go for it, Ander.
Yeah, and Glenn Mead has got a fuel problem. He has got a fair bit less fuel, significantly less fuel than Mick Hill. So Mick Hill is on a charge, and this will be good to watch till the end of the race.
Yeah, I was looking at his lap times there. He's running very consistent 3-minute 44s there, with the fastest with a 3-minute 42.9. So that's by no means slow by Glenn Mead. So he's been running some very nice consistent laps there in the Mad Turtle Racing Audi TT. But if we go down to Mick Hill's lap times, he's also running into the 3-minute 44s, but just slightly quicker than Glenn Mead in third place. And as we saw there, as we heard there, if he's got some fuel problems and Mick Hill is good to the end there, this will be a spicy finish for P3. And I can say, underneath the helmet of Mick Hill, he'll be wanting to get that P3 after all the things that he's gone through tonight. He'll definitely want that P3, and he wants to solidify himself as a top 3 runner.
Absolutely, yeah. Glenn Mead might have explained a little bit about why he was able to jump so many cars in the pit stop. Not only the contact between Mick Hill and Matthew Joynson, but the fact that he might have just underfueled the car. Of course, the refuel rate here is 4 litres per second, so you can save yourself a few seconds in the pit stop, but you're going to have to fuel save, and if you haven't quite got that math right, then you might be missing out on a position here. I mean, even if Glenn Mead had put in, you know, maybe 4 liters more, he might not be as struggling as much as he is now, and it would have only been a second, and that would have mean he would have been on full throttle for the remainder of this race. But that can really cost you. Underfueling here is going to really cost drivers that make that mistake, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think amongst the two drivers, in both Glenn Mead and Mick Hill, they're very competitive drivers, and they both have the very similar skill sets in the way they drive in comparison to speed and lap times. Obviously, with Mick Hill underneath the tutelage of Andrew Scott in car 787, he's obviously picked up his pace massively to what he was 6-8 months ago, and I'm guessing, and with the man himself in the pit lane, who's now actually joined us from the pit lane into the commentary box. What can you say about your man in Mick Hill, the performance that he's gained over the last few months, the confidence that he has currently in his Scirocco? But you could just say throughout the whole year, throughout 2023, he's definitely been one of the most improved drivers that I've seen in any forms of league racing.
Yeah, I tell you what, I couldn't ask for a better teammate, and that's the whole idea of me, Cougar Driver Development. We're looking to take on people and get them better, and he's done nothing but get better in the last year or so with us, and he's gaining now on Brucey well, but his lap times are not far off mine. It's just a bit of bad luck here and there, and also a little bit of racecraft and strategy that he has to improve on, but he's going to be right up there before too long.
Exactly. So we saw a 3-minute 45.9 there, so you can see he's definitely fuel saving. And then we saw Mick Hill with a 3-minute 44.9, so he's just a second faster than Glenn Mead, and the gap is less than 0.5 of a second between Glenn Mead and Mick Hill. They've already executed the first couple of corners. They're going through sector 1 as they come through. Even though he's purple, he might not be able to get it throughout the rest of the lap there, because 10.8 kilometers to maintain a purple lap here, George, is very tricky, and on dead tyres, I don't think it's possible that he's going to get himself a fast lap.
No, that's right. You really need to be doing that hot lap after the first lap or two after you've gone into the pits on fresh tyres. This is now the last lap of this race, everyone. So it is lap 12 of 12, and things have been incredibly interesting at this race. St. Croix
Come on,
C.
Nick, you can do it.
Providing some great entertainment as Andrew starts to get very excited for his teammate as well. Yes, indeed, egging him on. Of course, got Danwood up in P2 as well, having a bit of a quiet time now. But the real battle is going to be between Big Bruce the Shark, Glenn Mead, and Mick Hill. This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to seeing how these two can deal with the rest of this race. But of course, we've still got the long neck straight. That is going to be a scary one for Glenn Mead this time round.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, they're just coming through this windy section here. This is the perfect position that Mick Hill needs to be in. Don't make the moves too early. As soon as you get onto the bridge, don't even think about going for a move on the inside on the exit of the bridge. You just wait until you get onto long neck, and it's very important for car number 3 to get the perfect run on that on the right-hander coming through the sweeper onto the long neck straight. But he's done very well here, under 2/10 of a second now. Mick Hill has really closed the gap here with Glenn Mead on fuel. Probably on fuel map 3-4 for a couple of the corners through the windy section. He now has to get it back to fuel mix 1 because he needs that extra bit of horsepower that he's got in the Audi TT compared to the Scirocco there. Just scrapes a barrier there, or it must have been millimeters close for Glenn Mead as they're coming towards the right-hander onto long neck straight. Beautiful scenery that we have here. Perfect sunny conditions here for a perfect battle for P3. And it looks like Glenn Mead has just got the upper hand so far. It looks like Mick Hill hasn't got the best run going on to long neck, but watch this Volkswagen Scirocco pull in the Audi TT. It's ever so slightly closing. It's closing. We'll wait and see what the fuel is happening with Glenn Mead there. He's pulling it a little bit there, but I think it just might not be enough here. This is the only opportunistic place that you can go for that overtake. Does Mick Hill go later on the brakes there? He does. He's able to pull it up a little bit smoother than Glenn Mead.
His tyres were, I think Brucey saved a little bit of fuel for mum and the kids there, so he revved it out down the straight there, and he's played a masterful stroke. He was down on fuel, but now he's even on fuel with Mick Hill.
Oh, that is brilliant. That is
strategy there.
Yeah, that is perfect.
Yeah, mum and the kids. Yeah.
Well,
wow,
I was going to say, as I was saying before, I mean, he was going to be very scared down that straight. The fact that he's considered that while driving as part of his strategy, going right, Mick Hill's going to have me on the back straight, and we do have the race leader finishing the race. We'll come to that very, very soon. But Glenn Mead absolutely stunning strategy, adapting on the fly, saving all his fuel so he can stay ahead of Mick Hill, and it'll be it.
Oh,
I don't think
full
Mick Hill's
stairs
going
in
to
the
have
last
it.
corner.
I don't think he's got it. I don't
He's
think he's got
popping.
it.
Come on.
Glenn Mead is just going to hold on to P3. So Glenn
Oh,
Mead,
there we
the
go.
perfect, the mastermind of the strategist here at Mad Turtle Racing, seals P3. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see P1 and P2 cross the finish line. Would have given them better wraps
that'd be boring.
Exactly right. A little bit of a boring race for first and second place, but P3 was the battle here. That is going to feel like a victory for Glenn Mead in third place. Mick Hill, very unfortunate to not pick up a P3 in the end there after all he suffered in the early stints of this race. Still comes home into fourth place. Robert Foster, I think, is the biggest surprise out of all of this, down in fifth place here. So the strategy for one turtle to the other has gone in different directions here, George.
It
9 to
certainly
10.
has. It certainly has. We're going to look at our results in just a second, everyone, but I can say with absolute confidence that that battle for P3 was absolutely spectacular. We have got a lot to digest and talk about because Glenn Mead has put on a masterclass here and tops Mick Hill, who has been stunning throughout the season, has got all the strategies absolutely right, but that call to save all the fuel for that straight has absolutely secured Bruce third place. Let's go over to our results and take a little look at what was a fantastic Lobby 1 race here. 12 laps at St. Croix C here in France, and Andrew Scott with the fastest lap for me, Cooke Driver Development. The team lead takes the lead position in the race, takes P1 and the fastest lap, 46 points, going home to his team and himself. Dan Wood in P2, unfortunately not getting the strategy quite right. I've still got to take my hat off to him. He stuck with it and still secured P2. But then Glenn Mead, here we go. This was a masterful strategy call. He had a great strategy over the entire race, but then to save fuel on that straight around the back, the long neck straight, absolutely masterful. Hats off to him. Chaps, what do we think about that?
Absolutely incredible there for Glenn Mead to seal P3. Mick Hill, after all he went through, unfortunately just couldn't get himself onto the podium alongside his teammate there, so he's going to be going through the debrief with his teammate and with his team to think what happened there. And I think he'll be a little bit hot under the collar there against Matthew Johnson, but as we did say there, Johnson did redress and he did do the right thing, pulling back on the long neck straight just to give him that track position. But unfortunately for John, as we saw him closing up with Robert Foster, looked like Robert Foster just had the edge on him on better tyres because he did come in a lap later than Matthew Johnson. So Robert Foster sealing P5, Johnson 6, Peter McKenzie. But a quiet race for the Road Sick boys, down in 7th and 11th place there. So not the runs that we always see the Road Sick fellas down that low, unfortunately. Then we have Tony Griffin, Ricky Rick, and Matthew Hatton rounding up the top 10. Kevin Cooper, Troy Britnell, Benjamin Blaker, 12th, 13th, and 14th. And as we said earlier in the broadcast, Rusty Nuts Racing in Bryce Cantwell and Richard Robertson not making the start of this race and unfortunately withdrawing from the Trak Racer TCR Cup. So very sad to see the Rusty Nuts Racing team withdraw, but we understand. As we saw there, the car at Monza was a write-off and Richard Robertson was not able to attend this round here at St. Croix.
Exactly, and I do think that if Matthew Johnson and Mick Hill hadn't had that contact in turn 1, I get the feeling Matthew Johnson might have been up there in P4 potentially. Mick Hill almost certainly would have been in P3, especially given the fuel save that Glenn Mead was having to do. But yeah, really unfortunate for both those drivers to come together. That'll obviously go to the stewards room. Hats off for the redress, but at the end of the day, a contact is a contact. Numerous other interesting bits of driving around there. Lots of control. I'm still getting my head around those 3 drivers at the end of, I think it was lap 5, all going everywhere on the track, suffering from tire degradation, dirty tires, and everyone having little moments, counter-steering here and there, going sideways. It was the drift, the Tokyo drift at St. Croix was going on in that last section of the lap. It was quite incredible to watch.
Absolutely. So thankfully our pit reporter and Ando Scott did have a monitor next to him so you could watch all the coverage there, but he, thankfully enough, he's joined us in the commentary box for the last couple of laps here. So what did you think of that? What was the vibe like around pit lane? Obviously we saw a lot of strategies there, the one stop with Dan Wood, the extra bit of fuel that Robert Foster took into his car. Obviously you'll say that the one stopper worked with pitting on lap 6 or pitting on the end of lap 1 for getting off the hard tyres and then going from 6 to 6 with the soft tyres. So you definitely think that was the better strategy here tonight, Andak?
Yeah, the Mikuga supercomputers once again came up with the 2 stoppers, just marginally better than a 1 stop. and so that's what we went with, and thankfully it worked out. But my drive of the day, I think, has to go to Big Brewster Shark Glenn Mead. He held off a red mist induced Mick Hill there quite beautifully. Hats off again to Matthew Johnson for doing the right thing, redressing. We saw it on replay there, and it was just basically a missed brake marker. So no hard feelings there. And it was good to see the Swifts doing well around this track, and good to see some parity. Multiple car makes in this race all doing quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the Volkswagen up front, then we have the Suzuki, and then we have the Audi. So very nice parity there. And then you can just see it down there as well. We've got the Volkswagen, the Audi, and then the Suzuki. So yeah, it's a very good mixtures here. Very good strengths and weaknesses amongst all brands and manufacturers, and we definitely saw a class between all three brands where their strengths and weaknesses were. But I definitely agree there. Definitely drive of the day goes to Glenn Mead. Hats off to both Andrew Scott and Dan Wood getting first and second. But I think, unfortunately, as we saw on the broadcast, the eyes were on for P3. We couldn't take our eyes off it, George.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. My drive of the day as well, Glenn Mead. So 3 votes out of 3. Congratulations, Glenn Mead. Big Brewster Shark for Mad Turtle Racing. What a race you put on for us today. Absolutely spectacular. And a very close finish there between yourself and the incredibly fast Mick Hill. So that is our Lobby 1 coverage for you tonight, folks. But do not go anywhere. We're going to be taking a 5-minute break, and we'll be right back after 5 minutes for Lobby 2, where we're going to see some things, I think, spice up a little bit. I get the feeling. I'm feeling this. Lobby 2, is there something about it? There's always something about it. So we'll see.
Hold your hat.
We'll hold our hats. There we go.
This was a good race. Wait for the next one, boys.
Exactly right. So thank you very much, everyone. We will be back in 5 minutes. We'll see you very shortly. Hello and welcome back everyone to the Trak Racer TCR Cup Season 2. We've had a fantastic time here at St. Croix so far. So of course we had Lobby 1 just a moment ago before our short break, and now we're back for Lobby 2 action. Very much looking forward to this. Andrew Scott in Lobby 1 took a pretty dominant victory there. The strategy calls were absolutely clear. The 2-stop seems to be faster than the 1-stop. We'll be keeping an eye out for that in Lobby 2 tonight. So let's go straight there because qualifying is done. I think it's time to jump straight into things. Previous results for Lobby 2 on your screen right now for round 3 at Monza, round 4 at Monza, in fact, that is. After 24 laps, it was Pacheco and then Jeremy Crow and then Wyatt, who was a reserve driver for Hassel 1 Motorsport. And I believe he's actually now a permanent signing for Hassel 1 Motorsport. So congratulations to him. He'll be driving with us today out on grid. So keep an eye out for the PSN tag Dr. Wolf. That is Sam Wyatt. We know that he is fast. So, chaps, any thoughts before we jump into our qualifying results here? No thoughts at all from either of my
Sorry,
teams.
I do apologise.
There we go.
My sounds like the audio guy just cut my microphone off, but I had a little bit of a straight word with him, and we're back up in there. But yes, I was just saying, with the Colin Racing team getting the 1-2 last time at Monza, and unfortunately for Pacheco, he was one of the drivers that did suffer from the stewards room. He got himself a 4-point deduction. Didn't cost him the victory. He did get the victory fair and square, but obviously cost him some points in the drivers' championship. But I'll be looking to see if the Peugeot, out of all the other cars, will be able to live up to the hype. Yes, it was very fast around the Temple of Speed, but around St. Croix, it could be a very interesting one. This is the only team running the Peugeot RZZ after R&R's withdrawal from with both Bryce Cantwell and Richard Robertson. So Colin Racing team are flying the flags for Peugeot. Can they get themselves back onto the podium? Can they get themselves into the victory? We'll find out very shortly as we get onto the grid now. Qualifying is done. 10 minutes off this long 10.8 kilometer circuit around St. Croix, and we have our grid of drivers. It is Scott Taylor for Gridline Racing, the founder of Gridline Racing, in first place. Monica Camilleri for Whiplash Motorsport in P2, and then there are the Colin Racing team boys in Jeremy Crow third, Mark Pacheco in fourth place. So Scott Taylor, I think that's his first pole position here in the Trak Racer TCR Cup, so well done to him to get these Audi TT up the front. Monica, very nice surprise there up into P2. She's been showing some great performances in that Whiplash Motorsport, and potentially we might be seeing some good strategy calls next to her name. Then a teammate in Drew Eisen in fifth place, Mitch Collin, the founder of Colin Racing Team, now driving for Boosted Mobile Racing in sixth place. They can never get the team right there, so I'll find out eventually. They will never get the team right there. But Mitch Collin in sixth place, Jeff Brun, the teammate to Scott Taylor in seventh place, and then we have Sam Wyatt, as we said there, the permanent signing for Hassel 1 Automotive in eighth place there. So great to see his name inside the top 8. We saw him how fast he was at the Temple of Speed, getting onto the podium for his debut race. Then we have Shane Addard for Scarborough Motorsport in ninth place, and Cade Patton, his teammate, inside the top 10. So actually I do read here, they are in a Peugeot RCZ. I do remember that. So they are the second team running the Peugeot RCZ. Then we have Stephen Harrison in 11th, Mark Hasseldine, the owner of Hasseldine 1 Automotive, in 12th place. So very interested to see he's done a big scoop there to get his man and Sam Wyatt into that car, replacing Naki Nax, who was the former driver. Then we have Blake Williamson rounding up the 13 drivers in 13th and last place. Doesn't look like we don't have any Black Rose Racing, unfortunately, because they don't look like they've been on the grid here tonight. So 14th, 15th and 16th place have been left vacant, unfortunately, there.
That's exactly right. And now the drivers are ready. They're on the grid, ready to go. So I think it's time to get out on track and get things going. And here we are now on track. 1 lights, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights on the grid. We're ready to go for the false grid start here. Second lobby, and lights are out. We are away. It's a good start there from Jeremy Crow. He's really made some moves there. Some moves happening in the back of the field as well. Wyatt as well. That's a stunning start. He's up to P6 right now, challenging the Whiplash Motorsports cars to get ahead. What will happen up into turn 1? Very tricky to get through here cleanly. They saw that correctly done in Lobby 1. Will it happen in Lobby 2? Side-by-side action. Scotty has lost 2 places on the start of this race. Monica Camilleri up into P1, followed by Jeremy Crow, followed by Scott Taylor, followed by Drew Eisen there in P4, and Sam Wyatt out of nowhere. P5 for him, followed by Pacheco. Great stuff, great start. Still side-by-side as we barrel down towards the 3rd corner on this opening lap.
Perfect start there for Sam White up into P5. He's lost that position now to Mark Pacheco in 5th place there. So, but it's a very poor start there by the pole man in Scott Taylor, going from 1st to 3rd at the end of a couple of corners there, giving the lead to Monica Camilleri and Jeremy Crow, both gaining a position on the man that took pole position in car number 37. Then we have Drew Eisen, one of the big movers so far, from I believe from 5th to 4th at the moment. Then as you saw there, Sam Wyatt, a very solid start there off the start of the getting off the grid very nicely, trying to get past Mark Pacheco to get back into P5, and then there's Scott Taylor losing another position again. So this is a horrible start from the Gridline Racing driver, from pole position to 4th place. He definitely must be on a different strategy. Probably the tire pressures haven't gone up to temperature on his Audi TT there, but he's dropping down pretty fast here, and he's got a fast Pacheco and Wyatt behind him.
Exactly right, yeah, very entertaining opening lap there. Unfortunately not entertaining for Gridline Motorsports there. They are dropping down the positions rapidly. Jeff Bruin has lost a position as well. He's down into P8 now behind Mitch Collin, who's managed to find his way up to P7. Sam Wyatt, though, it's a stunning start from him. For Hasselblad Motorsport, they'll be absolutely stoked with that performance off the line. That little car that could is now looking to make a move as well. He's got Pacheco in front of him for Collin Racing, and Collin Racing team is looking good as well. Unfortunately for Scotty, he's going to lose another position here potentially of the inside line. No, Pacheco thinks twice, gets out of it, but does end up compromising Scott Taylor, who goes very deep into the corner.
I could see ahead there. Eisen went for the move on Jeremy Crow there. They both drifted wide going into the barriers there, and they both compromised themselves. Looks like it came out better for Drew Eisen, but Jeremy Crow goes from P2 to P4, and he's going to lose more positions. We can see the Hasselden car just barging his way through, thinking, get out of my way, CRT. I want to get myself up towards the front order here. We're going to be potentially seeing 3 cars going wide here, as we can see the nice picturesque video shot here. Let's see if we can get the cut to the panoramic shot here. We'd love to see the cameraman go through that, because we can see there 3 cars now gone back to 2. Can Scott Taylor get himself on the inside? He doesn't. But we can see there, looks like he's going to go for an outside move on Jeremy Crow. No, he doesn't. So Wyatt holds on to P4 from position 8 to P4. Wow, what a solid start by the Hasselblad Automotive Team driver in car number 85 there. So great start for Sam Wyatt. Unfortunate there for Jeremy Crow to lose that position to Drew Eisen. And Sam Wyatt's not done here, George.
He's not done. He's on an absolute charge right now. He wants to get that car as far up the grid as possible. We do know that track position here is absolutely key, especially when it comes to the pit stops. And Simon Wyatt now is absolutely wasting no time at all. He's got Birdman Jeremy Crow in front of him for Collin Racing Team. This will be the second one of those Peugeots that he will overtake in this race. Drew Eisen not too far up the road as well. Monica Camilleri leading with distance. That was very close there. Runs very wide. Lots of dirt being kicked up. And who's going to pit on that one? It is going to be Scott Taylor and Mitch Collin at the very least there. Those two, both on the hard tyres at the start. That might explain a couple of things. Kane Patton as well in the pits, as well as Jeff Bruin. 4 drivers out of the grid deciding to pit lap 1.
Whiplash is checked out. Monica's gone.
Wow, so very strong pace here by Monica Camilleri there. So obviously it looks like a bit of a busy pit lane there, Fernando. What can you tell us? What are we seeing? Are we seeing drivers doing the Robert Foster strategy of filling up the car, or are we seeing just drivers going from hard tyres to soft straight away?
They're just doing the one on hards. They're not refueling. They're just getting straight back out there. And I can tell you that of the top 5 or 6 cars, every single tyre compound was chosen. So we've got cars here on all sorts of different strategies and tyre compounds to start the race.
Wow, very interesting. We'll be bringing up that telemetry very soon as we get towards the pit strategies there. But we did see 4 drivers in the pit lane. They were on the hards. They are now going to go for that soft tyre strategy and just go full Sam Wyatt. Oh, he just saves it there. Just clips the gravel there. Keeps the car pointing in the right direction. Unfortunately, that drops him down a position to P5. Thankfully for him, he's got a good buffer over Shane Addard in 6th place there. But that would have been a butt clenching moment there for the debutant in Sam Wyatt.
Certainly. I think, Andrew Scott, you might need to run over to the Hassel One Automotive pit lane and say to them that they need to get a pair of underpants for this man here, who's had an unbelievable start to this race. P8 all the way up to his best of P4 there. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get past Jeremy Crow. Momentarily he did, and then he's fallen back now behind the two column racing teams before having that absolutely crazy moment there on the gravel. Just cooked it a little bit too much onto the outside of the corner, but good car control. We have seen that the car control from everyone on the grid is absolutely amazing. No cars so far in either lobby have spun around as a result of dropping 2 tires onto the outside, which I can tell you I would have been doing. I do not have that level of car control, and Sam Wyatt now back on the charge with those tires nice and cleaned up after quite the moment.
Yeah, exactly right. You could definitely tell he wasn't having any croissants here before the race. He was having a pain au chocolat, so it's definitely something a little bit different on his end of his appetite there. But yes, but you can see there how much he's gauged pretty quickly there. So I wonder if he's on the softer compound in Sam Wyatt here. So definitely, like as Ando said, running some different strategies here amongst the top 5, top 6, we could say. But yeah, you could definitely see the pace. He's picked it up pretty quickly there. We know it's a very fast drive, very aggressive. It kind of reminds me of DP Mario, as we saw in some of the Surefire Supercar series, as well as some of the early runnings of the TCR Cup. Very aggressive driver, very fast, wanting to get on the fast tires as quickly as possible and just make up positions and just try and get track position as much as you can. So I wonder if that's the strategy of what Sam Wyatt's doing at the moment.
Could well be. As we heard from our pit lane, we've got mediums, we've got softs, and we had hards out there. We might even have a few drivers still on the hard tires. We know that 4 did start on the hards and immediately dropped them for a better compound. So getting that mandatory tire out of the way for the remainder of this race, that does seem to be quite a fast strategy. Those drivers will definitely be two-stopping in this race. Mark Pacheco now starting to go purple in this final part of the lap, and that's keeping Sam Wyatt nice and checked out in the background there. But he is getting closer. He is getting slightly closer there, but these 3 are going to be in a little bit of a battle, I think, throughout all of this race.
Yeah, we can see that Monica Camilleri is approaching the end of lap 2, start of lap 3 there in the lead there. Very comfortable lead over her teammate in Drew Eisen. As we see there, we can see both the Colin Racing Team boys are double stacking here, getting off those hard tires. They're going the extra lap on the hard tires. Very interesting strategy there. I wonder if they're going to put any fuel there. So we'll wait to hear from our pit lane reporter very shortly to see what the strategy is there. But it is Monica Camilleri ahead of her teammate in Drew Eisen in second place. Sam Wyatt up into P3. Booster Blake here. I'll never ever get this team right here. Unless I need to get a reminder from our lead commentator in Georgian what it is, because I always keep calling it boosted mobile, boosted automotive. I can never tell what it is.
I think because you were doing it correctly earlier in the season and I started mucking it up, so I think I've handed you the boosted curse of some kind. It is in fact boosted racing team. I'm trying to commit it to memory as well, but of course we've got Blake Williamson there, so the B in all of this is kind of, I think, mixing us up, but it is boosted racing team. This is boosted Blake, who is by name Blake Williamson. And I think both of us are going to struggle with this towards the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. We do apologise to Peter Adderton if we do use the copyright of Boosted Mobile there. But but running in P4 is Blake Williamson. Obviously, the top 4, we say that the top 5 actually have not come into the pit lane yet. So Stephen Harrison rounds up the top 5 with Scott Taylor in 6th place, the first of the drivers that have come into the pit lane, getting off those hard tyres. Running on a nice set of soft tyres. So let's get over to our pit reporter there, Andrew. What can you tell us from that last pit stop? Did any of those drivers get off the hards to get onto some soft tyres, or are we seeing some different strategies?
We are seeing some very different strategies. Both Birdman and Pacheco took fuel during that pit stop. They've gotten rid of the hards, but they've both gone on to medium. So that is very interesting indeed. And as we see Scott Taylor, who's pulled off, I think, probably the optimal strategy here. He's on fresh softs, he's got good track position, and he's got Type 54 ahead of him, who's got damage. Oh
dear, okay. So that damage must have come from earlier on maybe lap 1 or 2 when the field was a little bit closer together. That is not going to do him any favors. Stephen Harrison, so there is a Black Rose racing car on track, turns out. Stephen Harrison
there we go.
Is out there, turns out. Yeah, so we got that a little bit wrong here in the commentary box. Black Rose Racing are in fact out on track, and he's in P6 at the moment, so not too bad. But if he's carrying damage, that's going to hurt.
Yeah, he's just lost the position to Scotty, and he's leaking oil big time. He's losing time.
Very unfortunate there. So not going the way for Black Rose Racing. Unfortunately, Steve Smith not making the grid tonight here at St. Croix, and unfortunately he's kind of leaving his teammate all alone there, but running it up very nicely in P6, so we'll wait to see what his result is at the end of 12 laps here. But we can say the Whiplash Motorsport team, they are absolutely flying, but I think the man who is also flying even faster than the top two is Sam Wyatt. Look at the speed, he's really closed the gap to Drew Eisen massively there. If we still had the Colin Racing team boys up in front of them, I would have thought he would have been past those guys by now, and in the same position that he is catching Drew Eisen in P2, because that man, that Hasseldine Automotive, the Hassel One Motorsport team, has done so well. Unfortunately, they lost their key driver in Naki Nax, and they've brought in Sam White, who's made his debut 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, I would say, in the Surefire Supercars at Blue Moon Infield A. Took up on the role as a reserve driver to get himself into the TCR Cup. Hasseldine Automotive called him, and he produced them their first ever podium and got a P3 in at Monza, the Temple of Speed, and so far running very nicely in 3rd place. So this could be a very nice race for Sam White if he holds on to this, holds on to his pace and holds on to track position.
Exactly. When we saw the kind of pace and skill that he executed at the start of this race, didn't have a great qualifying, as we do know, as Blake Williamson comes into the pits. He was on the hards for those 3 laps. And wow, that is Sam Wyatt. A massive moment. The car just stepped away from him, the rear, under braking and turning. I think he just braked a little bit too hard as he was still turning through turn 1, and the car just said no. It just absolutely refused there.
He avoided damage.
Well, that's amazing that he's avoided damage. Wow, okay. Double wow for A, controlling the car, or triple wow, in fact. A, controlling the car, B, the car stepping out like it did, and C, that he didn't get damage from that. Absolutely amazing. I'm actually keen, Nick, I'm keen to consider the difference in tyres between the top 3, because Sam White does look like he's having a few struggles out there now. Whether or not it's related to tyres, I'm not 100% sure. Drew Eisen, my bad, excuse me. Drew Eisen was losing time as well to Sam Wyatt, and then we've got, of course, Monica Camilleri. So I think we might throw it over to our pit lane reporter. Those 3 cars at the top, Monica Camilleri, Drew Eisen, and Sam Wyatt, can we get an update on what tyre that they are on at the moment?
I certainly can, because it is very interesting. Do you want me to tell you guys? Do you want me to spoil the beans? I can definitely do that, but the top 2, the Whiplash cars, are on a softer compound, let's put it that way. But critically, poor Drew Eisen has got damage. He has got front splitter and front right suspension damage. So he is on a softer compound than Sam behind him. Sam Wyatt is on a softer compound, but not the softest compound, let's put it that way. But he's on a charge. He's doing really well in this stint. He hasn't pitted yet, and he's making really good inroads on that tyre. But the quiet achiever, the lone wolf in the pack here, is GLR Scotty in P4. He's got fresh, very soft tyres, and he's good on fuel. He's going to be one to deal with. He's going to be one to watch later in the race.
Gee, we can definitely hear there from our pit lane reporters. He's saying, "Riddle me this, ladies and gentlemen." Not giving us any idea, any incentive of what tyre strategy he's on. But I have an idea of what he's trying to do. So I think I've solved the riddle there. But yeah, very unfortunate there for Drew Eisen. So it looks like he's still sticking out to Plan A, even though yes, he is losing time to Sam White. He's still sticking to his guns, and that's why the gap between himself and his teammate in Monica is growing ever so largely. But then we can also see with Sam White right behind there, probably on the better strategy, on the optimal strategy compared to Drew Eisen, is doing, reeling him in very nicely in P3. But we can see the background there. There is Scott Taylor in 4th place, the Gridline Racing Audi TT, very well presented Audi TT, might I add there as well for Scott Taylor. Nicely done in 4th place. Definitely could be put a bit of an underdog performance here, but we do have Monica in 1st place, and the gap between her and Scott Taylor is quite a big gap. So a lot bigger than what we saw with Dan Wood and Andrew Scott when they were battling each other for the lead.
That's right. It'll be interesting to see if this has gone to plan for GLR and Scott and Taylor here. They were, of course, pole position sitters. So they started first in this race. They fell well back into the grid, 4th position, I think, by turn 3. And then they were the first of the pit stoppers as well. 1 lap on the hards, threw it out. Now he's on a charge back up the field. and he has ended up in 4th position again, with 3 cars ahead of him that have yet to pit 2, holding damage, and I think he is doing pretty well to start to catch up to P2 and P3. As Nick, you said, Monica is fairly checked out at this stage. She got a great start off the line. I mean, absolutely brilliant work for Monica Camilleri. By turn 2, she was in the lead. By turn 5, she had a second or 2 on the rest of the grid. So she's really put herself in a great position here. It's somewhat Whiplash Motorsports race to lose at this stage, but that is the fastest lap there from Scott Taylor. I think he's going to be a bit of a menace in this.
He's a coming.
Yeah, absolutely there. So we're on lap 5 for 12 here. The top 3 was separated between themselves, not by much there. Obviously, we can see the battle pack between 2nd and 3rd there, between Drew Eisen and Sam White, closing ever so slightly, obviously with Eisen's damage there. But then you're going to look behind. Scott Taylor, there he is. He's lurking. He's just wanting to save those tyres, save a little bit of fuel there, maybe get to on a better fuel margin compared to the rest of the drivers ahead of him, to maybe get that little bit of advantage when he comes out of the pit lane. Then we have the Colin Racing Team boys, the boys that took 1st and 2nd place, with Birdman in 5th, Mark Pacheco in 6th, and then we have Stephen Harrison in Type 54, the sole Black Rose Racing, random again in 7th place, but he's just unfortunately walking wounded there on an old set of tyres and just dropping down the order, unfortunately there, so down into P8, but Mitch Collin has gone through into 7th place there. Shane Addard in 9th, and then Jeff Brun, a little bit of a quiet driver so far. Jeff Brun in 10th place. We usually normally see him against his teammate, and Scott Taylor up towards the front there. So maybe the strategy hasn't worked well in the other car, in the other gridline racing car, in car 18, in a bit of a Scarborough Motorsport Newlawn sandwich.
That's right. That looks like a fairly tasty sandwich to me. I do like that gridline racing car. Looks very nice out on screen, and 2 nice bits of Scarborough Motorsport bread surrounding him. So very, very nice there. But this little battle pack is going to continue to evolve. Shane Attard, of course, we know how quick he is out on track, and he will be putting on a performance here. Scarborough, Dylan Scarborough, who is the team leader of Scarborough Motorsport, will be absolutely stoked to see these 2 chaps do well here today, but they're running fairly far down the grid at this stage of the race. It's all going to come down to strategy to bring them back into this later on, but luckily they are part of this 2nd battle pack. The main battle pack provisionally is those 3 at the top, but Scott Taylor, I think he's technically leading the race at this stage. He might still come out of the pit, across the pit line after Monica Camilleri, though. She's got such a big lead, 2 corners and half the main straight.
Yeah,
half the long neck straight.
Gonna be close.
I think it'd be very close, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're going back there with Scar, it's got a bit of...
Oh, we just lost you there, Nick, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll get you...
There we go. So I was just saying there, just a bit of a funny reference there. There's a bit of like white bread there between the Scarborough Motorsports. You've got the white bread with the crust around the outside there. So nice, well presented there by Dylan Scarborough. So yeah, I think, if the strategy is going to work out for Whiplash Motorsport, I would probably consider potentially pitting Monica right now, because if she's yet to go on the hard tyres. We're on lap 5 of 12. We do know she's a very good tyre saver, as seen in the Surefire Supercar Series in her Ford Mustang. I think she might be able to come into the pit lane probably at the end of this lap, jump the
She'll have a fuel decision to make, though. So does she want to refuel twice in this race or not? So yeah, good point, Spud. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, so she's coming onto the pit straight right now, so we'll wait and see what she does there. There we go. So she has pulled the trigger. She's getting off those soft tires, but the next question is, does she come in for fuel? Does she just stay out on the tire compound does she stay out on the fuel load that she's on right now? What does her teammate do? And Drew Eisen, will he come into the pit lane? He does, and wide too. So there we go. So lap 5 of 12. Very interesting here, so a very interesting strategy. And here comes Scott Taylor. And we are seeing the fuel numbers going up for Monica Camilleri. She is putting fuel in. She is taking fuel on the car there. So very, very intrigued to see what she does. She's only put 60 litres in, though. So this is something interesting. So what can you tell us, Ando? What tyre has Monica put on? Because with a short fuel, with a small fuel tank, definitely would have to be on a harder compound.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused here, because she's taken a little bit of fuel and she switched to the mandatory tyre. So she definitely cannot go to the end on this tyre, so she's committed to a two-stop, and she's on the hard tyre now. So as we can see, she's given away the lead now to Scotty, and it's effectively now a race to the finish. They've both got to stop again.
Yeah, and also remember Scott Taylor did not come into the pit lane, so maybe she's using the fuel just to her advantage when they come into the pit lane at the end of this lap, potentially
No,
with
he
Scott
did.
Taylor.
He's already pitted. He did 1 lap on hards.
Yeah, but he will need to come into the pit lane for I assume for another set of soft tires as well.
They both do. They both do. So yeah, she's got a bit more fuel than Scotty, or significantly more fuel than him. But Scotty's, he's on the faster tire. His tire wear is looking good.
Very interesting indeed here. So. Going to be so the strategists are looking a little bit different for Monica Camilleri in second place, holding on to that ahead of the Colin Racing team boys in Jeremy Crow and Mark Pacheco. As we did see the other driver that did come into the pit lane, both Sam White and Drew Isa, they're not inside the top 8 there. So where have they fallen down?
Well, we're going to have a look, because that's the interesting thing. If their strategy was going to work out, and this is what we were talking about in Lobby 1, was in terms of track position, where you come out after your pit stop is absolutely critical. They are well down the field here. There's Sam Wyatt in P11. Now, where was... let's have a little look, because I can't even see him. There it is, Drew Eisen in P12 at the moment. So 11th and 12th on the grid. So not only have they come out behind the entire grid there, they must have taken a lot more fuel on board.
And surely they're on hard tyres as well, getting rid of that mandatory tyre.
Yeah, sure. You'd think so, right? My question here is Monica and Drew for the Whiplash Motorsport team, who usually do run the same strategy, are they going to do 1 lap on the hards here, throw it out, and then try and sort of average out the pit stops with the refueling? Or are they going to try and run multiple laps on the hard tyres? I don't think we've seen any good strategies so far that have used the hard tyres for more than 1 lap in this race. Seems to be more effective to get onto those soft tyres and then absolutely go for broke. And interestingly, Sam Wyatt on the mediums, and that entire first stint, 8th to 4th, and all the issues that he had, but all the great racing and speed he had on mediums.
Yeah, it's very interesting strategies that we are seeing here, ladies and gentlemen. So strap yourselves in. This could be a spicy finish if we get some different strategies here. We could be seeing some closer races. You can see all the cars there from first all the way up to Sam White, all along the long neck straight here. So you can definitely see the gaps are a lot closer in this lobby here. We always say the second lobby always tends out to bring the goodness in all of the racing here. And it's definitely proving to be so far. We're on lap 6 of 12. We're just about to go half race distance here. Majority of the field will be coming into the pit lane at the end of this lap to put on their last set of compound tyres, their choice of compound tyres, and put a full tank of fuel in. But it's all coming down to the most important question. Will Monica be able to keep the lead, or will Scott Taylor maintain the lead with more fuel to put in his car?
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
I think this is going to be a cracker, guys. Sorry to interject, but I think Whiplash have created a little bit of a fuel problem for themselves by pitting on lap 5. So they had a comfortable lead, but now that's going to evaporate, I think, because they've got a problem with fuel by pitting on lap 5. She stays out, so she's doing more than 1 lap on hards, but she's committed to a 2-stopper. So let's see how this plays out. I think Scotty's looking pretty good right now.
I would say so, and I think, not that I'm any kind of level of strategist here, but I think if you see your opponent pit there, and knowing that, well, hopefully knowing that he's on low fuel, obviously we get the benefit of a little bit of an objective view here, seeing what everyone is doing. But, if you're on those hard tyres, you want to throw them away. I don't think they're worth being out there for more than 1 lap, really, at the end of the day. So maybe that was the moment there for Monica to think, right, Scotty's got in, let's go in as well.
Yeah, and also, not only is she doing more than 1 lap on hards, she's refueling twice. We all know, I think you know, Spud, all too well, that when you pull up and press that refuel button, it costs you 3 to 4 seconds just to press that button. And even if you don't take any fuel. So she's going to be refueling twice in this race, whereas Scotty, who I think might be on an optimal strategy, he's only going to be refueling once. So there's 3 to 4 seconds straight away he's gained.
I think the only advantage that Monica's going to have out of all this is that she's going to be putting a lot less fuel compared to what Scott Taylor's put in at the moment. But yeah, like you said there, when you actually put the nozzle in again for the second time and you do refuel, you are sitting in the pit bay again, rather than just taking on the fuel on the last stint. I believe that's something that maybe what Sam Wyatt and maybe Drew Eisen did. Maybe they put in a full tank of fuel. They're probably running the harder compound strategy, the harder tyres compared to everybody else. So maybe they might be just running to a fuel number and then just getting off those tyres, maybe a bit of a splash and dash and try and get themselves towards the end of the race here. So we're not 100% sure here, because we can see the field is so closely packed here. Monica leading the way, Jeremy Crow, Mark Pacheco in 3rd place, Shane Addard in 4th place there. Jeff Brun still holds on to 5th place. Kane Payton in 6th with Blake Williamson 7th, and Sam White inside the top 8. And we want to see where Scott Taylor is. There he is. He's in 10th place there. So he's down in 10th. So Monica's coming up to the exit of the bridge right now, and we can see there Scott Taylor is coming through to the S's going onto the bridge, and and the thing is, he's actually behind one of the main drivers that is in the contention for the victory, and that's Monica's teammate in Drew Eisen. But you can see Drew Eisen really holding up Scott Taylor on the entry of the bridge there. So Drew Eisen just trying to play a bit of teamwork there, but unfortunately for him, it is no luck for him whatsoever. So Scott Taylor looks like he's gone well clear of Drew Eisen. Oh, will Drew set it towards the inside? He's thinking about it. Oh,
covers him off.
He does a very good job there.
Well done.
Yep, into that corner before the bridge.
It's a 2 against 1 here, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, certainly is. I mean, into the bridge there, Drew Eisen was going very defensive, and he took that shorter line in. That completely compromised him through the corner. And then Scott Taylor was like, thank you very much. I'll quite happily have the racing line for that one. Got the power on early and straight past Drew Eisen. Very good little thought there from Drew Eisen. Just threatened the overtake back on the inside. Unfortunately, he wasn't quite close enough to make that work. But point in fact, Drew Eisen was running up in P2. Now Scott Taylor is ahead of him, and he's going to the end of the race. And I think if you calculate it from the point of view of, there's a big send.
Oh, he's going looking for the inside.
Send. Doesn't make it happen though, but this is what I like. I love to see driving like this from Drew Eisen and any driver on the grid, making sure that the driver ahead is thinking about you and not the corner ahead. I think that's stunning.
And his teammate in the lead is into the pits now, guys. So this is crucial. This is a real good team battle here. Let's see who comes out on top when Monica exits the pits.
There we go. So this is going to be absolutely critical here. And if we do consider this from the point of view of doing one refuel, the optimal time to refuel would have been basically at the end of lap 6, which is when we saw Scott Taylor come in. Hence why we think he's on now the optimal strategy in this race. It is a 2-stop. He spent that first lap on the hard tires. He did lose track position initially, but was able to come out in very, very clean air immediately after. He's going to fly past Monica Camilleri in the pit. She's up to 84% fuel. This is going to be very close, actually. Very, very close. She's just come out of the pits, but the overspeed from Scott Taylor, he takes essentially what is the lead of this race. Sam Wyatt, though, has come out ahead as well. So Sam Wyatt in P3 now. Shane Attard and Blake Williamson currently in P1 and P2. They have to pit again. Sam Wyatt hits the inside of turn 1. Scott Taylor's going to have a good run on him down to turn 3. So this is all to play for. Scott Taylor is absolutely going for it. This is indeed, as we've heard there, for the lead of this race. Scott Taylor will take it. A little bit of a defensive move there, or an offensive move, I should say, from Sam Wyatt. Doesn't want to give it up, but has to. Unfortunately, runs very deep into turn 3. Oh dear. That is Scott Taylor. What a masterclass.
Yeah, absolutely there. I don't think Sam White did come into the pit lane, though. He was just ahead of Scott Taylor on the exit of the final corner, so maybe the camera shot just didn't pan it out the way that, as we see it on the live track feed. That Sam White was actually still on track, so he is also yet to make a pit stop here. As we can also see, Drew Eisen has come into the pit lane, but you can see there, Drew Eisen, as noted, he was ahead of Scott Taylor in the first stint. Where is he within the top 8? He's definitely, the strategy has not worked well for Drew Eisen. Even though he did pick up damage and he had to stay a little bit longer at the pit lane, he's not inside the top 8. So something has gone wrong with Drew's car.
Certainly has, yeah. So the strategy, it's all about the strategy here today. And Scott Taylor has absolutely put he's just done it. He's absolutely in the right position. He's on the right amount of fuel with the right tyre. He's gone past our previous leader in Monica Camilleri at the right time. Of course, that's absolutely correct what you said there, Nick. We've got Sam Wyatt in 4th. He does need to pit again, so that does mean that provisionally we've got Scotty in P1 and then Monica Camilleri in P2. But Sam's Monica Camilleri has really lost out here today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry,
go ahead.
An update. Yeah, Scott, Sam is good to the end, but he is on the hard tyre. So he's going to be leaking oil for the rest of this race. But
right, okay.
yeah. Sorry to cut you off, guys. But yeah, Super VT, she's right on his hammer now. She's going to be past him very shortly, and she's on a charge. She's got fresh softs and plenty of fuel, and she's got 1 lap fresher softs than the leader, the effective leader, Scott Taylor. So this is going to be a cracker of a finish to this race.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I can't wait to see if Monica can close up with 4.5 laps to go. This will be very close between the Audi TT and the Scirocco there. We can see there Sam Wyatt really just trying to get it underneath the rear wing of Monica Camilleri. She's saying, no, thank you. I don't want you to join part of my team at all. If you're going to do drive like that, I don't want you in my team at all. But Sam Wyatt's done a very good job there. But yes, as you said there, very weird strategy that we're seeing from the drivers here. We did see it in Lobby 1. Dan, we're trying to run on the long strategy off the hard tyres, but we did see there noticeably that you were losing roughly about 6 seconds a lap from the hardest compound to the softest compound. So the question is, we know Sam Wyatt is a very fast driver. We know Dan Wood was a fast driver, but do we think Sam Wyatt will be able to hold on to a top 8?
I think he might be in trouble.
I think he might be in trouble as well. Yeah, I mean, it is one of those tricky things. This circuit, it's a balance. You do need to be quick here, but at the expense of strategy, that is not going to work. Really, it's sort of more of that 80-20 rule of strategy versus speed. We saw that with Glenn Mead in the previous lobby, who really focused on that strategy, getting it right. Shane Attard and Blake Williamson into the pits. Sam Wyatt very wide at the last corner. Does manage to pull it up. He'll be in the pits, I think. No, he doesn't. He goes out for another lap. When do you think he's going to be pitting?
He's committed to one. He's good to the end now. He's committed to the one stop. Yeah.
There we go. So
he's on the hards. He's got to go to the end.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It just he didn't want to come in and just throw on a set of soft tyres. You know, he would have been the only driver on the freshest compounds. We could see that Shane Attard and Blake Williamson are getting onto their soft tyres in their last fuel stop. They've come out in 7th, 8th place, so it looks like Shane has actually lost the position to Jeff Brun. So Jeff was actually behind Shane in the previous stint. So it looks like Jeff, with the undercut, has proved wonders there. Is now coming up to the clutches of Mitch Cullen for Boosted Racing Team in 6th place. So hopefully I got that right in the end there. But Jeff Brun is doing well there. He's got ahead of the Scarborough Motorsport teams out of the pit lane. He will be on the freshest tyres. I think it's 2-3 laps difference between Jeff's and Shane's tyres, so it could be a close finish towards the end here. So we'll keep an eye on that battle pack. The battle pack, what looks to be for P6, P5.
Yeah, Sam Wolf there in 3rd. He's doing 53s right now on the hard, so he's leaking oil big time. He's going to be watching his mirrors from now to the end of the race, because he's got a whole bunch of soft runners coming at him.
Absolutely.
And this battle pack is not over yet there. You can just see how congested it is. It is absolutely close quarters between 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th place. Peyton right behind there, rounding up at the top 10. So we're looking at potentially, if this is the case, if Sam Wyatt holds on to P3, I mean, one, that'll be an absolute legendary drive that Sam Wyatt has put on through. But 2, he's got 6 cars behind him. 6 cars behind him. How is he going to defend all those drivers? That is the big question.
Exactly. So he's got 9 or 10 minutes remaining in this race, 3 or 4 laps to go. It's going to be a struggle for him. It really is, and especially as that tyre life starts to get away from him, and fatigue maybe starts to set in too. If he makes a few mistakes, that's going to really cost him. I mean, being down in the 53s, that is incredibly slow. Even Shane Attard right now, he's been hitting 49s out there on his previous stint. He'll probably be equaling that pace after this outlap that he's on right now. But as he said there, we've got P7, Jeff Bruin, then we've got Mitch Cullen. By the way, Boosted Racing Team having a pretty decent outing today. And also, I have to report that Drew Eisen is in P11. He's only a few seconds down the road from the top 10 spots, but he's out of the top 10 at the moment, chaps. He's had a shocker.
He's on fresh, he's on a charge though, so don't count him out. Maybe not a podium, but he will. I think he's going to definitely make some places between now and the end of the race. And just an update at the front, guys, for you. Monaco Super VT is hunting down Scotty for the lead. She's gaining.
Brilliant. All right, we're going to go back up to the top of the field, but just to round things out, Drew Eisen P11. We've got Mark Hasseldine here, leader of Hassel 1 Automotive in P12. And then we do have the Black Rose Racing car here, Mr. Type 54, who I will always forget the name of, unfortunately, so my apologies to Stephen Harrison for that, down in the last spot at the moment, and fair pace off the back of the grid, unfortunately. But it is Scott Taylor who is leading the race, as we just heard from our pit lane reporter, Monica Camilleri, though, in P2. There she is. That's only a corner behind. She's getting really close now.
She can see him.
See him. Yeah, so this is very close, but surprising to me at the moment, we've got the two Peugeots of Jeremy Crow and Mark Pacheco in P3 and P4 at the moment. Do we have any update from the pit lane on their strategy?
Yeah, they've gone for a very novel strategy. One of them's on mediums right now, and the other's on softs, and they're both fresh, so they've pulled off a pretty good strategy today. And if they can hold on to these positions, they should be able to bring home a great result, as Pacheco just goes purple.
Yeah,
he just the fastest lap.
It did get the fastest lap with 3:45.6 there, and they both have made the move on Sam Wyatt. So Sam Wyatt for a potential podium down to P5, and he's got a good buffer over Mitch Collin there, but that gap will close within 3 laps to go here. You watch that gap close between Sam Wyatt and Collin in 6th place. They can see there,
7 seconds a lap slower.
Yeah, that's just going to be painful for Sam Wyatt just to look through. He's just going to be thinking, what has gone wrong with my strategy? I was up into 4th place, 3rd place for a hot minute there, and then unfortunately there just down P5, wrong tyres, and on the last 3 laps, I just don't know. I don't know if he can hold on to P5. He might be finishing outside the top 10, probably not where Stephen Harrison is, or where his teammate Mark Hazeltine will be, but I think outside the top 10, probably potentially. Do you think potentially could be behind Drew Eisen in 11th place if he's closing up?
Could well be.
He's going to be a moving roadblock, guys. He's absolutely,
yeah.
He's struggling on these hards. He's not making his apexes. He's running wide. He's late on the gas. So he's got the track position though. So good on him for having a go. And this is going to be great to see how it unfolds.
Certainly will be. And Mitch Collin here under a lot of pressure from Jeff Bruin. This is the battle for P6, but there's battles happening all the way around the circuit at the moment. So it is Gridline Racing's Jeff Bruin. He might be looking at a move here, but Mitch Collin, if a Boosted Racing team, is doing an incredibly good job of holding those defensive lines and really sitting on their apex, not letting Jeff Bruin get any part of the car in ahead. But this could be an opportunity for Jeff Bruin. I do want to pose the question to both of you chaps, though. The pit lane here, obviously at a very fast part of the track, that would, I think, lull a lot of drivers into a sense that the one stop would be faster. You want to save a pit stop, but at a track this length, is that where we're seeing the difference between the 1 and the 2 stop? Is it the deceptive nature of this pit lane being technically a long one, so you want to try and avoid a pit stop, but then such a long track actually removing any advantage you get from that one stop?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, because with this 10.8 kilometer configuration and with the different lines and different characteristics of each corner, you can definitely see strengths and weaknesses throughout all the drivers, throughout all the cars, where you're gaining, where you're losing time. As you can see here, Jeff Bruin is really closed up on the back of Mitch Collin. He's going to pull into the inside line and inherit P6 at the end of Long Neck. But yeah, absolutely. With a track nature like this and so many corners that you have to remember and how to approach it, I think it kind of reminds me of it's like a fictional Nürburgring. It's a lot smaller, but it kind of reminds me of the Nürburgring. Just so many corners around the Nordschleife, just so many corners to remember and what their characteristics are like. We know around the Nordschleife it is very tricky. Oh, Colin goes deep on the brakes there, but it looks like Jeff Bruins is going to hold it around the inside line, push him onto the grass there every minute, every inch. No inch given, no quarters given for Mitch Collin there. Takes P6 there. Nicely done there for Jeff in a P6 while his teammate runs away in the lead, getting closed up by Monica Camilleri. But I think it's kind of like you've got to think about the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife. You can gain so much time in certain corners, you lose time through others. But again, just the pit transit time you just need to, I think it's just being you need to have the fresh compound of tyres. You need to have the freshness of those tyres on your wagon.
Exactly right, yeah. And with the reports that we've been having from the pit lane, 7 seconds a lap deficit, potentially even 8. That on-track time is worth so much. So if you're trying to reduce the pit lane time with the one stop, unfortunately, you're losing that time out on track, and it doesn't. The equation, the math, does not work out for that, sadly. Hence, the two-stop is the advantage there. Now, we've just seen a little bit of a interesting battle going on between Shane Attard and Blake Williamson. So both the boosted racing team cars up into the top 10 at the moment. Is that a move for Blake Williamson? Yes, it is. On the inside, little bit of a scrap here between those two. Shane Attard loses out. Lovely move there from Blake Williamson and boosted racing team. He'll be stoked with that move, and now catching up with his teammate in Mitch Collin. Stunning stuff, and it's happening all around the grid right now.
And look who's in the foreground ahead there. We can see a little bit of blue there from Sam Wyatt. He's there. He's exited turn 3, and where's Jeff Brun? Exiting turn 3 as well. So the gap has closed massively. It's less than 2 laps to go. There's going to be tentative moments here for Sam Wyatt. Can he hold this P5? We can see the Collin Racing Team boys going hard at it. They know they can't catch Monica and Scott Taylor, so they're going to go hard for the racing here, maybe playing a bit of a team court, playing a bit of a team game, just try and consolidate P3, P4, and just work their way up the team's championship and help each other out in the drivers' championship as well. With Monica holding on to P2, doesn't look like she's closed too much on Scott Taylor. She can see him right there in the foreground, but I don't know if it's going to be enough time there. There's as I always say, there's so many corners around the St. Croix in the C layout C, but you need to have better pace advantage over the man in front of you. And if the man in front of you has the pace advantage and it has got the consistency, you can just kiss the victory goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we know that both Scott Taylor and Monica Camilleri are both incredibly fast drivers. Monica known, of course, for her defensive driving as well, but the strategy just hasn't seemed to be as on point, certainly not today, over the course of the season as well. Whiplash Motorsport making a few strategic errors that have cost some better results, but today, I mean, almost out of nowhere, because Redline Racing Team have been a little bit out of it in this championship this season, despite having a great driver lineup in Scott Taylor, who was previously a privateer, and now teaming up with Jeff Bruin in GLR. These two chaps, they know their car very well in the Audi that they're driving, and today it's just a masterclass. Scott Taylor has got it absolutely perfect. I mean, and hats off to Jeff as well, from P8 to now P6, and chasing down Sam Wyatt, very, very good. But yeah, unfortunately for Monica Camilleri and the Whiplash Motorsport team, it's gone from what looked amazing at the start of this race with such a big gap, and it's just disappeared. It's run away from them, sadly.
Look at that battle pack for P5. I can just see it on the mini-map there. It is closing. It is super close there. There's Sam Wyatt. He's going to be waving the white flag pretty soon there, because Jeff is on the charge here. If he can get himself inside the top 5, that'll be a very solid drive there for Jeff Brun to get both grid line back up towards the front there, getting some very crucial team points in their team's championship, but also give the confidence in the team as well in both Scott Taylor and Jeff Brun. He's going to get him no matter what, unfortunately, and I think for Sam Wyatt's case, it's just holding on for dear life, because he only got one more lap to go. If he had 11 laps here, held on to P5, I would have been a very happy driver myself if he got P5. At the end of 11 laps, and unfortunately, son, you have one more to go, and it's just pray to the French gods that you can hold on to at least a P6.
That's
they
right.
are queuing up behind him. I can tell you boys right now, they are queuing up behind him.
That's right. The two boosted racing cars not far behind Jeff Bruin, but also this really is the cork in the wine bottle of this race right now. It is Sam Wyatt, who's had a mega start on the medium tires. Things haven't.
4.
Yep.
Versus Jets. What lap time? 3 minute 40 something, I would say. 3 minute 47
flat.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's on him. He's on him.
I think it really is now a matter of when, not if, at this stage. In fact, a few laps ago, it was still a matter of when, not if, at this stage. Sam Wyatt desperately now is trying to escape the monster that is behind him in Jeff Broom. He knows he is in so much trouble right now because he's got 1 lap to go. He's going to have to try and pull everything out of the toolbox of defensive driving. He's going to have to throw, I suspect, the rulebook out of the window and do whatever he can. Break the slipstream, try and take alternative lines, sit on the apex at 5 kilometers an hour, try and force a mistake somehow, but I think it's all going to be over at the final corner, but it might be over sooner than that. Jeff Bruin, you're right, the grip is so different here. Oh, here we go.
Sam White's going to try and hold around the outside. Jeff does leave him the room there, so they are going to go side by side there, but it looks like they're still going side by side. Jeff's going to be a little bit superior on the brakes here compared to Sam White, and it looks like Sam White might have to throw the white flag. No, he goes centered up on the inside there. This is holding each other up. They're holding each other up, and here comes the Boosted Racing team. And Blake Williamson and Mitch Collins, they are queuing up behind him. Sam White drops down to P6. He's going to lose out to Blake Williamson. He's going to go for the outside. That turns into the inside through the S's. He takes the move done, sends it in. Very authoritative move there by Blake Williamson. Up into 6. Sam White down to P7. Started the lap in P5, down to P7. But he's got more cars behind him, queuing up behind him to try and get inside that top 8. Sam White still holds on to 7.
Mando. Just an update from the front, G. Scotty. He's just holding on to the lead from Super VT. Monica has gotten a lot closer, but I think she's going to run out of laps.
Yep, absolutely. We will go back on board with that fight as well. We've got Shane Attard trying to make a move on Mitch Collin. He might have got it done as well. Looks like he has. There might have been a bit of contact there between the two drivers. There's Drew Eisen in the background, followed by Kane Patton. So Drew Eisen back up into the top 10, but still not an ideal race. And I've got to be honest with you, chaps, seeing what's happening to Sam Wyatt right now, it hurts as a driver. It hurts to see this happen. There goes another one. Shane Attard goes through on the Hasselone Automotive driver. This is absolutely painful to watch. Nearly runs wide. Crikey, it almost went from bad to worse. There's Mitch Collin, though. He'll be the next one to find his way past Sam White. You hate to see it. So let's jump back up to the front of the grid. GLR Scotty leads us through the final section. He has managed to survive at the long neck there. Monica Camilleri right behind him. Let's go on board for the last part of this lap. Chaps, what a battle we've had.
Oh, absolutely. Monica's thrown everything that she could. Not the ideal strategy that she's been running, but she's been coming in charging very hard on Scott Taylor. But with a couple of corners to go, it's not going to be enough here for the Whiplash Motorsport team leader in Monica Camilleri. So she's going to have to settle in for P2. But what a drive, what a strategy call there by the man, the team boss of Gridline Racing, getting that Audi TT Gridline 37 up towards the front in pole position. Takes a like to flag victory here. Not the easiest victory for Scott Taylor, but a victory nonetheless for car 37. A flash of the headlights for the Audi TT takes the victory. Monica in second place there, so a nice recovery drive for her. Then we have the Collin Racing team boys with Jeremy Crow in third, Mark Pacheco fourth, and it looks like Blake Williamson has just got ahead of Jeff Brun. So it looks like he has. So
10th place, guys.
we're going to head back down the order there. We can see some battles here. They're going to go 3 wide into the last corner. Drew sends it around the outside. Through to the barriers. They go. There goes Sam Wyatt. Wow, he's gone back up into P9, P8.
What
he's got
has
inside the top 8.
happened there?
Oh my God.
Right, we have a lot to digest at the end of this race. So Jeff Bruin looks like he had some sort of issue. Blake
He went into the grass.
Yeah, he's got, okay, so Jeff Bruin's gone into the grass. Blake Williamson has got his best result of the season there in P5 for Boosted Racing Team. Shane Attard comes through what was a chaotic scene at the last corner there with Kane Patton involved in that. Sam Wyatt, ran very, very deep, but as a result, we also had Drew Eisen on the outside. Trying to overtake straight into a barrier. So somehow Sam Wyatt has got a top 10 here. How? I don't know, because all of those cars were essentially ahead of him.
I don't know if our broadcast team can give us a replay of that, because I would love to see what happened there. Where did he end up? How did Mitch Collin end up in P11? How did Drew Eisen finish just inside the top 10 with not a great strategy?
We rewinded.
We'll have to watch again.
We are going and getting that broadcast coverage just now. So give me a second, chaps. Continue discussions while I find the optimal moment to bring us back on board.
Board with Mitch Collin in the last sector, because it all happened. I think it was all happening there for P7 to 10.
All right, here we go, chaps. Here we go.
You'll see what happened.
Yeah, here we go. So we're on board with Drew Eisen. Ahead is Mitch Collin. This is all going to start kicking off here. So we've got Mitch Collin here in P9. He's behind Sam Wyatt here. He's going to maybe make a move here into into the slightly harder corner at the end of Long Neck. Yes, he does. So makes the move done. Sam Wyatt will now try and come back. Let's keep an eye on what happens here, because this is where it's all going to start to kick off between these drivers. I'm still astonished as to what we saw. Let's keep an eye, because Drew Eisen is now coming and getting involved in this. Sam Wyatt is still involved, but on the inside, it's an attempt on the inside by Drew Eisen on Mitch Collin. Does so. Mitch Collin tries to outbrake him. does get the move done, does Drew Eisen, tries to go to the inside. Oh my goodness, this is close racing between all these. Kane Patton is in there as well. Sam Wyatt, really the cork in this bottle of wine right now. Coming up to the final couple of corners here. Sam Wyatt runs a bit wide, Drew Eisen on the outside. Mitch Collin involved in as well. 3 wide.
Oh, he's on the grass.
He was on the ground.
He round to go.
Oh, wow. So that is pulling
Watch Kane Patton. Watch Kane Patton.
and
Here he
Kane Patton
goes.
comes through all of them.
It's a Bradbury. He's done a
Oh
Bradbury.
my goodness. Okay, so the
Wow.
real winner in all of this was Kane Patton, who I was wondering how he came into this fight at all. Turns out he just took the corner normally with these three going at it. So Mitch Collin, was it, ran wide onto the grass and hit Drew Eisen, who then essentially was forced onto the gravel. Sam Wyatt somehow survived all that as well, but Kane Patton, he won. He won that one.
Yeah, he waltzed on through. He waltzed on through.
Wow. What a finish to this race, chaps. We've got a little bit to digest here because that was unbelievable at the end of this race, and great to see so many different strategies at the start and see them coalesce at the end of this race as well. Let's quickly run through our top 10 results here. Then we're going to go into discussions about the amazing race we've just seen. Then we'll talk driver of the day. For those in chat, let us know who your driver of the day is. But Scott Taylor, masterclass today. 47 points for him. Well, I believe that should be a little bit less than that, but nonetheless, for Gridline Racing, he'll take home a bag of points at a great victory. Although I think, surprisingly, Monica Camilleri was a lot closer than I was expecting her to be at the end of that race. P2 for her, then Jeremy Crow and Mark Pacheco for Colin Racing Team, with Pacheco taking the fastest lap in this race. And then, 5th place, Blake Williamson, his best result of the season. Big congratulations there to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have to feel for Monica, though. She did take the lead. She did run a bit of an alternative strategy compared to Scott Taylor, but unfortunately it was just too little too late. Not enough laps for Monica to get the move done on Scott Taylor. Had there been one more lap, it would have been on for money for the victory here between Scott and Monica. So unfortunately there for her, strategy wasn't on her side there, running a bit of a different strategy. The fuel numbers not running, not the projected field numbers that we were thinking of drivers would be running. So unfortunately for her, she's dropped down. Just finishing P2. She won't be upset, but I think she knew she should have been up to front there. I think the commemorative drive there as well will have to go to Scott Taylor. I think that was a really solid comeback drive for Scott Taylor. Was down into P4 before he came into the pit lane as well, fellas. You have to remember that. And he just came out, did a masterful strategy, took some driver advice there from the Cooke team, and just thought, you know what, I'll bring it to Gridline Racing, and it's worked out perfectly for him.
Certainly has. He's been renting out the supercomputer, so to speak. Rounding out our top 10, we've got Jeff Bruin, then Shane Attard, then Kane Patton in P8. Came out of absolutely nowhere, took P8. Sam Wyatt, who fell all the way down the grid. That was really painful watching that struggle for the rest of it. But he did manage to stay ahead of Drew Eisen and Mitch Collin, who were both looking very, very scary on him at the end. So somehow, out of nowhere, Sam Wyatt, who was almost certainly not going to get a top 10 finish here, managed a top 10 finish. Then, of course, we have Drew Eisen rounding out our top 10. So very interesting little incident, I think, at the end there. Let's break that down a little bit here, chaps.
Yeah, I think Mitch Collin there with a very bold move into the last corner and one tyre on the grass really compromised his braking performance. He also, I think, went a little bit too deep than he should have, and he's unfortunately made contact by going deep at the apex and missing the apex with Drew Eisen there. So he's caused some drivers to lose multiple positions, and he might have something to answer to there with the stewards this week. But honest mistake and a bold effort. It was a fantastic finish. But I must say, guys, after all of that, my drive of the day will have to go to Scotty Taylor from Gridline Racing. But I have heard, hot off the press, that there is a reported breach of IT technology coming from Cooke. There's been a hack of the Cooke supercomputers coming from an IP address in Tasmania. So yeah, but hats off to Scott Taylor, who's somehow come up with the optimal strategy, and bad luck to Whiplash, who unfortunately, by pitting on lap 5 and doing multiple laps on hards, weren't quite on the optimal strategy, if you ask me. But drive of the day to Scotty Taylor. Well done.
Yeah. I think it was a very interesting by Monica. Yeah, she came in on lap 5. I would have assumed with her strategy like that, I would have assumed her just going 1 lap on the hard tires and then coming in for another set of soft tires and then filling the tank up to the brim. And maybe that would have brought her a lot closer to Scott Taylor, but that extra lap on the hard tires did cost her in the end there. I think it was
refueling twice as well. She refueled twice.
Yeah, exactly right. So had she not refueled in that at the end of lap 5, I think the gap would have been a hell of a lot closer between those two, and we would have seen a really good battle, spicy battle for P1 at the end there.
Well,
but yeah,
it would have been obvious. She would have been clearly ahead, because if you think about it, 1 extra lap on hards is another 5 seconds at least, and refueling twice costs you another 4 seconds. So she would have been 7 or 8 seconds ahead of me.
Well, and I have to report as well, so I've got to double check some telemetry, which we do have available to us over here now after the race. Monica's tires were substantially better, and I mean 10, 15, maybe even 20% better than Scotty's. So if she had gone in, and done just 1 lap on the hard tires, she would have been absolutely fine. Fine on fuel as well. So I really think that cost her the lead of this race. I really do.
Yeah, those tires and fuel, they're expendables, they're consumables. You don't want to leave any of it in the tank over the line. So, you know, that's I think what gave Scotty the win today.
Yeah, and unfortunately, both Ando and I know Monica very well, so we race her alongside her in the Surefire Supercar Series. We know between the comparisons between the Chevrolet Camaro and the Ford Mustang, the Ford Mustang has better tyre life compared to the Camaros, but her tyre life that she can save on that Mustang is better than anybody else's. The tyre that she can save is absolutely incredible, and she's used it and she's brought it over to the Trak Racer TCR Cup as well. So she's brought that tyre saving strategy that she's always been running to this lobby, where basically in theory all the cars are relatively similar on tyre wear, and and if she's saving better tyres in that Scirocco than Scott Taylor did on the Audi TT, it's just, you just have to think back, why did she not pit on at the end of, why did she not just do 1 lap on the hard tyres? Because if we're seeing telemetry from the off-board cameras that's saying that she could have gone at least another lap on a soft tyre and just done the 1 lap on the hards, that is a crucial mistake there by Whiplash.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, I also have to report that Drew Eisen was on very, very good racing softs at the end, and he had about 2.5, maybe even 3 laps of fuel on board. So I think that's probably what cost them. They've just overcooked on the strategy, haven't used it to the finer points of the detail, and unfortunately, that's cost them massively today. It really has. So unfortunate for Whiplash Motorsport, a learning experience here at St. Croix. It's not always easy to get. It is one of the longest circuits out there, bar the Nordschleife.
Correct.
So, you know, it's tricky to get that right. Some of the teams who haven't experienced a circuit like this and the conditions, we were talking earlier about why the 1-stop is not as optimal as the 2-stop. It can lull you into a false sense of security, especially when you know that there's a high-speed section where you're going to lose a lot of time in the pit stops. You think, okay, I'm going to reduce the amount of pit stops that we do. We'll try and extend it out. Sadly, with a track this long, not the case, and it's going to be a learning experience for a few teams out there today, I think.
Yeah, once again, my hat's off to Scotty from Gridline Racing, because he started on pole and he chose to start on the hards, and he stuck to his strategy, and he gave away 3 spots at the start of the race on lap 1, and he was falling backwards massively, but he still chose to pit on lap 1.
Yep.
Execute his strategy. He stayed out of trouble, and there you go. Boom. There's a win.
Yeah.
So well done, Scotty.
Absolutely. And I also have to, I will have to give an honorable mention to Sam White there. He did put on a very mammoth fight there from start to finish. He did really well to get himself up into 4th place before everyone else pitted, then up into P3, battling with the likes of Drew Eisen and the Colin Racing Team boys. He was doing very well, but unfortunately there, as we saw in the case of Dan Wood from CP Motorsports, running on those hard tyres does not help you whatsoever. You lose 6-7 seconds a lap around this circuit there. So unfortunately, it was a bit of a pit stop blunder for Sam White there, but I will have to give him some honorable mentions there. He did put a valiant effort there, and he almost came away with it at the end there. He almost got 8th there. And I think, as we have to go back to that incident that we saw transpire between Eisen, Attard, and Wyatt, it just He looked like he looked like he had the move. He had the position sealed for position 8 there. He did have that position very sealed there. It was more Colin and Ison versing each other and just trying to be that driver who's like, okay, I'm going to get Wyatt in the last couple of corners, and then they're just like, no, I'm going to get Wyatt. No, I'm going to get Wyatt. And just so we could just see there a little bit of that aggressive driviness, and that's what we love to see in a TCR Cup.
Yeah.
It brings this kind of aggression that we love to see with drivers really going full send with the cars, really trying to maximize what you can, whatever tire grip you have left, just try and execute as much as you can. And I think for the case of those boys, very hard racing there, but unfortunately just dire consequences. And like we saw, the biggest wrap went to Kane Patterson from 11th, well back from this battle pack, reminding you, ladies and gentlemen, he was so far back from the battle for 8th place. Did a Bradbury, as Ando said, picks up 8th place and some crucial points to Scarborough Motorsport.
Exactly. That's right, and Sam White, my hat's off to him, because he had to take avoiding action to avoid spinning out himself. He had a spinning Mitch Collin in front of him, and he had to go onto the grass, take avoiding action, and that's what cost him the place to Kane Patton.
Yeah, he had
the
Drew
line.
as well,
So
I believe.
So he made the best of a bad situation. So I think he's definitely made a name for himself in this league by now, being a new arrival. I think there'll be a few teams looking at him moving forward.
Certainly will. So to bring things to a conclusion here for our Lobby 2 results, Nick, we have a driver of the day from you, and then I'll give my thoughts as well, and then we'll have a little look at the results which are coming in for the standings and the team title.
Yeah, as I will give it to Ando for giving his good mate in Scott Taylor drive today, but I'm gonna go left field here. I'm gonna give it to Blake Williamson. He finished down in P5. His best result for Boosted Mobile Racing. Hopefully I've got that. Hopefully I haven't got that right. Definitely not. Boosted Racing Team. That's
Bingo.
what it is now. There we go. We've got it in the end there. So sorry, Pete Addison. Yeah, no, he's done very well there to get himself up into P5. He did make the move on Jeff Bruton on the last lap, as we did hear from Andrew Scott, that he looked like Jeff did run onto the grass there, lost a position, got himself inside the top 5. Best position that he could bring to his own team and racing alongside his good mate with Mitch Collin. And I think, you know, that was a really gutsy drive there for Blake Williamson. Put himself in the right place, right time, got the moves done that he needs to make the moves, make them stick, didn't make any mistakes, didn't really off-put anyone. And a top 5 finish in a field like this, or in the Trak Racer TCR Cup, is worthy of a driver of the day.
Couldn't agree more. That's absolutely right. We've had an interesting comment from someone in the grandstand saying, pit refueler was sleeping, Whiplash now hiring. So just FYI, if you think you're a competent pit refueler out there, Whiplash Motorsport might want to have a little conversation with you. Just FYI for all of our viewers out there. So thank you for those comments. And of course, thank you to everyone in chat as well. If you do have a driver of the day, let us know. I'm very split here between these two drivers. I think Scott Taylor had this plan from the start. I think he knew, look, I've qualified first, but I'm going to sacrifice it, and we're going to go and do the optimum strategy here. I think hats off to him for that, but I can't overlook Blake Williamson, who gets his best result of the season. That is fantastic. This is, I think, Scott Taylor's best result of the season as well. So I'm having a real hard time here, guys. You're putting me right in the driver's seat of this, but you know, when you take pole position, when you get first in the race after the strategy didn't look initially correct, and fighting off a driver who we do know is fast in Monica Camilleri, I think Scott Taylor, for me, will take the money on this one. So driver of the day, 2 out of 3 votes for Scott Taylor, but do let us know in chat if you want to swing that a little bit.
Stop press.
Oh yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, George, but there's a stop press here. There is actually a lawsuit happening now. I've just heard between me Cooke management are suing Gridline Racing. Apparently, the breach from Tasmania has been confirmed. So I'd like to switch my driver of the day vote to Boosted Blake.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's now reverse confirmation here. Apparently, allegedly, that there is a hack of the supercomputer going on. Are you sure it's not a
lawsuit ensuing?
Okay. You know, we'll see what the result of that lawsuit is. Maybe the GLR team were handed some results by a member of the Me Cooke driver development team. We will never know, maybe, but maybe we will after the lawsuit is settled. Nonetheless, interesting there.
Millions.
There we go. Okay, so driver of the day to Blake Williamson for getting P5. A great drive from him, of course. So, everyone, let's go to our team's title standings as we start to round out the stream. And of course, Me Cooke Driver Development, they were in the lead previously on 272 points. Now they have extended that lead to 78 points. in total over Column Racing Team, who move up a position ahead of Whiplash Motorsport for P2. So a great result here today. Jeremy Crow and Mark Pacheco, 3rd and 4th in this race. They've had good, consistent results. Column Racing Team moving up the grid and securing that P2 spot. Whiplash Motorsport with not the ideal race here. They could have had Drew Eisen up there as well, but something just didn't go right for them. Monica Cavallari getting P2, but 3rd position for Whiplash Motorsport, then followed by Mad Turtle Racing, CP Motorsport, Roadsick Racing, Gridline Racing, who have a good run there, moving up a couple of positions in the championship. Juice Motorsport, Hoon Corp fall down quite significantly with 2 drivers not driving today in Lobby 2. And then rounding out the top 10, Boosted Racing Team.
Yeah, absolutely. So they didn't move any positions there, but they've got some crucial points that can help them close up to Hoon Corp if they don't show up again in the next round. So if Boosted Racing Team can get themselves up into 9th place, potentially try to get themselves inside the top 8 before season end, I think that'll be a great result for the debutant team in Boosted Racing Team. But what I've noticed as well there, fellas, we are looking at position 2, 270 points versus CP Motorsport's 244.5. So only 35 points, only 25.5 points separating the top 2, between 2nd and 5th place. So this is going to be a spicy last couple of rounds here in the Trak Racer TCR Cup.
It certainly will. We're looking forward to those rounds as well. We'll give you some information on that in just a moment before we start our outro. But let's look at our driver standings here at the moment. In 1st place, Andrew Scott takes the lead. So Andrew, no comment from you at the moment, but congratulations. You move up into P1. There you go. Move up into P1 in the championship for Me Cougar Driver Development Team. 1 point ahead of Dan Woods. That is incredibly close. Dan Wood had a missed round, I should say, at Monza. Wasn't there driving on the grid, and so he's lost out a little bit of points there. But nonetheless, this is all happening in the Drivers' Championship right now. 1 point difference between the top 2 drivers in here. Then it's Mick Hill in P3, followed by Robert Foster on 157 points. 7 points separating those two. So the fight for P3 is absolutely still on as well. Jeremy Crow, Monica Camilleri, Mark Pacheco, Peter McKenzie, Scott Taylor in P9, who's up based on that brilliant performance today. And then Drew Eisen rounding out our top 10 in the driver's standings. We'll show you 17th to 32nd place as well in a moment. But 1 point difference, guys, that's amazing.
Yeah, we've both had our drop round now, or what we call a miss round at MotorMotion. So I think that's a straight out battle to the end now between myself and Woodsy.
Absolutely.
Oh, sounds very good, Dan. Sounds going to be very spicy as we look down towards the bottom half of the field, 17th to 32nd. So we do thank our drivers for sticking it out here at Trak Racer TCR Cup for Season 2. As you have our 17th driver, Steve Smith, unfortunately, one of the drivers that did not make it. And then we can see Colin down in 18th place. Jeff Bruin has made a position in 19th. So the names that we normally see inside that first page there, George, are well out of it in 18th and 19th place there. So very, very unfortunate for them to be down just nearly like in the top 20. Even though top 20 is not too bad, you want to be a little bit higher, especially for those two. And then we have Sam White, the debutant, is coming through with 14 points next to his name. And as we see it there, Richard Robertson and Bryce Cantwell withdrawing from the Trak Racer TCR Cup.
Exactly right. So that is going to cover out our coverage of Lobby 1 and Lobby 2 here for Round 5 at St. Croix C. It has been a fantastic weekend of racing here at the Trak Racer TCR Cup for MotorMotion E-Series. Nick Pautasso and Andrew Scott, I would like to thank you very, very much both. Really appreciate all the efforts that you do here in the commentary box and in the pit lane. Of course, it is much, much appreciated. Thank you to all our viewers out there today as well. Next round, we're going to look forward to because, it's our favorite, folks, here in Australia and New Zealand. It is Bathurst. We are going to Bathurst, so join us in a couple of weeks back here on the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel. If you've enjoyed the broadcast today, of course, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe. It is most appreciated, and it means that you get notifications about when we go live, and you don't want to miss the Bathurst round. It is a brilliant track. We all love it. The mountain of speed. It is epic. There's going to be some epic driving, some epic racing around there. And yeah, it's one of my favorites. Then looking forward past that, 2 weeks later, we will have the 7th and final round of Season 2 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. We're going to Tokyo for the south counterclockwise track for 22 laps there with a medium tire at midnight. That's going to be spectacular. So make sure you join us for both of those races, and we will see you there next time. But for now, here in the commentary box and around the broadcast team, and for all the, on behalf of all the admins and the team in the background at MotorMotion E-Series, Nick, thank you very much. Andrew, thank you very much. My name is George Cooke. Thank you all for watching tonight's broadcast. We will see you next time for Bathurst. Take care, stay safe, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.